What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news right here over on our YouTube page, guys. Thank you very much for certainly joining us here today. A little bit of a bumpy start here to the morning. I had some technical issues earlier on today, which drives me crazy. I don't understand how I get technical issues on Sunday, but every time I go live on Saturday, no problem. It's like my computer doesn't want me to talk about Marvel or DC news throughout the week sometimes. So I have to fight with it, unfortunately, here this morning. I do got my cup of Joe, so that definitely helped me get through today, to certainly say the least. And to be honest with you guys, it's just me today. It's just me. I don't even have Stuart here. He called out last minute sick, not feeling too well. Indy, unfortunately, is busy working. Well, not unfortunately. Homeboy's got to make his money. You know what I'm saying? So it's just me and you guys here today. So certainly kick back, relax, get your coffee, enjoy your weekend, and we'll definitely go ahead and get through some stories here for you guys today. So it's going to be much more relaxed environment, to certainly say the least. I got my dog in the room with me. I got my cat in the room with me, who certainly knows what's going to happen on this live show, ladies and gentlemen, but it should certainly be a good one. We've got some great topics this week to certainly talk with you guys about, for sure. I really would have appreciated having somebody else to bounce these ideas off of, as we're going to be getting into the Batwoman controversy. We got Spider-Man No Way Home right around the corner, that is continuing to get more and more hype. I don't know how much more hype you can possibly get for this movie, but it's definitely there. We even got some Star Wars talk with the return of Hayden Christensen, and a lot more for you guys also. So certainly a lot to definitely dive into today. So I certainly hope you guys enjoyed. And always remember, at the end of the day, guys, these are just simply my A-plus opinions, but I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, and we'll definitely go from there, guys. So before we get into our main topics today, we do have ourselves some honorable mentions that I definitely do think we should certainly talk about briefly. I don't really have too many that we're going to be talking about, but Army of the Thieves, the upcoming prequel to Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, recently went ahead and released some brand new character posters. This movie itself is set to go ahead and drop on Netflix October 29th. Army of Thieves, again, it's right around the corner here, guys. It's quickly approaching, but we did get ourselves some character posters here for you guys to certainly check out. And the cast is all there. Definitely got the mastermind, the getaway driver. We got the hacker in here also, along with the action hero. I will say this in regards to Zack Snyder's movies. He does tend to put together a really great cast, usually tends to really create some really unique characters also. And just based off of what I've seen so far from his Army of the Dead movie, there's a lot going on in that film. It's definitely not your just traditional zombie film whatsoever. There definitely are some so I don't know how to explain it. Some definitely supernatural concepts in there, some robots, like post-apocalyptic concepts in there also, maybe even the concept of like time traveling or time paradoxes. Who certainly knows? But there's definitely a lot more going on in the Zack Snyder Army of the Dead movie. So the fact that he's got a prequel coming out to it called Army of Thieves, where we get to follow Diedrich himself, the safe cracker, I think he was probably one of the better parts to Army of the Dead for some people in regards to characters. Maybe he annoyed the hell out of you. I personally didn't mind him whatsoever, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what this movie is certainly going to be about, and just pretty much all about what else it certainly sets up for Army of the Dead that maybe we had some questions in regards to. So I am really excited to go ahead and check it out. I believe this movie probably takes place during the very first outbreak in Las Vegas that we got to see like clips and flashbacks of in the Army of the Dead movie. So it should be interesting to see just the timing and the story that unfolds in this movie also. So yeah, October, what did that date say? Let me go ahead and try and pull it back up. I think it said October 29th. October 29th. So definitely prepare for that, guys. We also got oh, today they actually even dropped a brand new Hawkeye poster for you guys. Getting ready to go ahead and drop on Disney Plus November 24th. We've had maybe one or two trailers so far in regards to it. And I absolutely love it. It definitely has that Christmas time vibe. I definitely get like Home Alone. It just feels like this is a type of movie. Like anytime I watch the trailer, I definitely get like Disney family movie or series vibes that you would see on like Freeform or Disney Family or something like that, just with some Marvel action included. So I love the fact that it's not taking itself too seriously, especially with somebody like Jeremy Renner, who honestly freaks me out. He scares me. If there is any entertainer out there that I feel a little bit iffy about, it's definitely Jeremy Renner. Just his personality and the way that he like holds himself. I always ask myself, like, does this man laugh at all? Like, I feel like he always takes himself so seriously. So the fact of being able to see him in sort of like this family-friendly Christmas themed MCU action series really has me interested. I'm really eager to see what they were able to do with these two characters, especially with the Disney Plus stuff that they have. They've just been so unique and different and taking risks in regards to how they tell their stories. And so for me, I didn't think that I was going to be super interested in the Hawkeye series. I mean, granted, it does have Haley Steinfeld in it. Like, even though this is a Jeremy Renner series, it's really a Haley Steinfeld series too. So that's probably the only reason I definitely would have been interested in checking it out. But the trailers alone have certainly pulled me in, guys. So yeah, Hawkeye. Got ourselves a first official trailer here, set to go ahead and drop on Disney Plus November 24th, guys. So I'm really interested in it. Really interested in it, surprisingly. What else did we get this week? I think we wind up getting Flash Armageddon trailer. So that was, I unfortunately didn't get the opportunity to watch that as of yet. And then we also wind up getting the Tom Holland Uncharted trailer, which for myself too, I didn't get the opportunity to watch also, with the exception of like a couple of clips that they wind up showcasing. I think on Twitter, I saw a clip of them matching up a specific scene to something directly out of the video game. I think it was it Uncharted 3 with the airplane and the cargo falling out, right? And Nathan Drake like holding on for dear life, sort of thing, before falling out. I gotta say, just based off of the trailer and just how like almost shot for shot it is from the video game, I think it's a really great shot. It's the only shot of the trailer that I've seen. I haven't seen Tom Holland's performance at all. But I gotta say, the one thing that I loved about Uncharted games is really the epic scope of the action and really how visceral it was and just made you feel a part of it, right? It was just a great cinematic action, the way that it kind of all unfolded. And to be able to see those big bombastic moments that sort of happen in the video game, just be in the movie itself. It just, because it feels like it's meant for the movies, being able to see that actually play out on the small screen or in the big screen when it happens, I think is going to be incredible. So these are two trailers that I definitely want to go ahead and check out. Again, it was a part of me that was hoping that maybe Indy and Stewart would be here so I can get their thoughts really and kind of bounce ideas and questions off of them, because I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity to go ahead and check out those trailers myself. But I think for me, Flash Armageddon, maybe I just haven't watched it because I didn't want to be spoiled in regards to anything at the time. But I definitely will be checking out the Uncharted trailer also when the time certainly comes. But yeah, guys, outside of that, those are really all the honorable mentions that we're going to be getting into today. Let's see who else we got here. I know Indy's in the house today. What's up, Indy? Appreciate you coming through from work over there. We got Christopher Throbbin in the house. He says, I'm going to wait to see how people like Hawkeye before trying it. I like Steinfeld, but don't really care about a Hawkeye show per se. And I think that's the same thing with me originally when it came out. It's something that, look, I'm a Marvel guy. I'm a DC guy. It don't really matter. I like movies and television shows and superheroes, so I'm going to watch it regardless. But I definitely was hesitant. I always told myself, like, how exciting can a Hawkeye movie possibly be? But I am a big fan of Haley, and I definitely want to go ahead and support her work and definitely showcase what she's capable of doing. And plus, even if I'm not that interested, I still watch it just because eventually we're probably going to review it and talk about it here on this channel. So Definitely got to go ahead and check it out for sure. Captain RGD, what's up? Appreciate you coming through. He says the Flash series should just end. We might be close to that. We might be close to that. Season 8 might be the last. Maybe they at least push out one more season after this. Who certainly knows? Captain RGD says Uncharted versus Tomb Raider. Who wins? You know what? I'll probably give Uncharted the let me break this down real quick. I will give Uncharted, like if I had to put Uncharted against maybe the original Tomb Raider series, definitely Uncharted. But don't sleep on Lara Croft and the brand new trilogy that she wind up having. It feels very Uncharted like to me, and with her just being an iconic character as it is, I really love the brand new trilogy that they have in regards to Tomb Raider. But as far as movie wise, I'm probably gonna give I'm probably gonna give it to Uncharted. I didn't mind the Tomb Raider movie, but I have a feeling the Uncharted movie itself is gonna be something pretty awesome to certainly watch. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's see here. Indy said he loved the trailer for Flash Armageddon. Yeah, I'll definitely have to go ahead and maybe try and check it out. I'm here for Mia Smoke, really, at this point in time. I really want to see her along with Cress Williams return as Black Lightning, having his show canceled prematurely, if you ask me. But all right, guys, with that out of the way, I guess we should start jumping into our main topics first and foremost. So let's go ahead and do it, man. The first topic that we'll definitely go ahead and talk about, we'll jump right into the world of DC and all the crazy controversy and drama that's certainly happening these days when it comes to the Batwoman, or I should say former Batwoman. Ruby Rose is back in the news, ladies and gentlemen, as this past week, she completely slammed WB television. It's been a while since we've actually heard from Ruby Rose, maybe about a year or so since she actually commented in regards to her departure from Batwoman. If you guys recall the story, was that two years ago at this point in time, after she wound up being fired from her job of Batwoman season 1, not coming back for season 2. People tend to paint a very pretty picture sometimes when they're on the outs and leaving, right? And Ruby Rose said some really glowing things about CW, her production staff, the crew that she worked with, her experiences. Batwoman was one of her most amazing times ever, sort of thing, with the exception of, clearly maybe an injury on set, yada, yada, yada. But, Ruby Rose for the past like 2 years has done nothing but show support for this show. But something has changed. Times have certainly changed when it comes to Ruby Rose, as again, this past week, according to Comic Book Resources, the article that we're getting this from, Ruby Rose blasted WB television with some incredible allegations, some very disgusting allegations, as the drama eventually started to unfold. So let's go ahead and look exactly as to what Ruby Rose said, and really maybe try and figure out why now, of all the time, after 2 years or a year and a half of not being on the show, after talking glowingly about your experience, are you kind of changing your tune? I find that pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and dive into this, guys. This is, again, comicbookresources.com. Batwoman's Ruby Rose reveals horrifying set conditions, slams WBTV chief, and Berlanti Productions. Here we go. This is what Ruby Rose had to say. Enough is enough. And guys, this is rather long, okay? So bear with me, but we're gonna go ahead and break down exactly what she said so you can get an idea of where her mindset is at, and what's maybe going on behind the scenes from time to time, according to Ruby Rose. Here we go. It says, enough is enough. Rose wrote on Instagram, calling out showrunner Caroline Dries and Berlanti Productions. I'm going to tell the whole world what really happened on that set. Peter Roth, former Warner Brothers Television Group chairman, you are first up. You are chapter 1. Not sure if you left after getting promoted to the highest position because you couldn't stop making young women steam your pants around your crotch while you still wearing your pants, or if you left after putting a private investigator on me who you fired as soon as the report didn't fit your narrative. Either way, when it comes to you, there's already an army waiting for you. Damn, Ruby Rose calling Peter Roth out for sure. It's just an interesting image. I could just picture like an old man just standing there, arms up, legs spread, and people just literally steaming this dude's crotch. It's the weirdest thing I've ever tried to like envision. I'm like, really? Do people actually do that on set? Like, is it that absolutely blatantly obvious about what's going on? Crazy stuff, to certainly say the least. It also says Rose went on to share videos from a doctor's office pertaining to the neck injury she suffered while filming Batwoman, which was previously documented to some degree. She also pointed out a major rib injury and a tumor, and shared a video from her neck surgery, writing, "To everyone who said I was so stiff on Batwoman, imagine going back to work 10 days after this. 10 days. Or the whole crew and cast would be fired, and I'd let everyone down because Peter Roth said he wouldn't recast, and I just lost the studio millions. That is be the one who cost so many people their job." So she definitely was feeling the pressure, it feels like, according to Ruby. It says, next up, she shared a message she delivered to announce she wouldn't be at Comic-Con International. I actually remember this. She was talking about how bummed she wasn't going to be there. She says, imagine having to take a pay cut to play a passion project and being so excited about Comic-Con and then being told that they would not adjust the schedule so I could attend, but then saying, we won't announce it. You have to. So kind of putting Ruby on the spot to go ahead and do that herself. She also says, so in closing, please, to my dear fans, stop asking if I will return to that awful show. I wouldn't return for any amount of money, nor if a gun were to my head, nor did I quit. I do not quit. They ruined Kate Kane and they destroyed Batwoman, not me. I followed orders, and if I wanted to stay, I was going to have to sign my rights away. A crew member got third-degree burns over his whole body, and we were given no therapy after witnessing his skin fall off his face. But I was the only one who sent him flowers and cards, and then they were told we had to do a sex scene without a minute to process. We lost 2 stunt doubles. I got cut in the face so close to my eye in the stunt I could have been blinded. A woman was left quadriplegic, and they tried to blame it on her for being on her phone. So much so, CW didn't even help her to start, with, because they needed to investigate. So she had to do a GoFundMe. She's a production assistant. They work via phones. Her accident occurred because our show refused to shut down when everyone else did because of COVID. Man, she's just letting it all loose right now. She says, and Caroline Dries, the showrunner, has no heart and wanted us to finish the season throughout the pandemic, and I told her it was a bad idea. I told her everyone was too distracted, constantly checking COVID updates, checking on friends, and seeing Riverdale, The Flash, and Supergirl shut down already. I felt something bad would happen, and Caroline Dries maybe visited the set 4 times a year. Unheard of. I mean, the list goes on and on, guys. The list goes on and on in regards to I'm trying to see if there's anything else on there. So yeah, and then I think they also highlight maybe some of the other things that Ruby Rose said prior to this, right after her departure from this series, and really how glowing it was. So horrifying set conditions, to certainly say the least, according to Ruby Rose here. But Warner Brothers wasn't going to take that sitting down whatsoever. Warner Brothers here, they did update the article. It does say Warner Brothers issued the following statement to Ruby Rose. This is what WB says. It says, despite the revisionist history that Ruby Rose is now sharing online aimed at the producers, the cast and crew, the network, and the studio, the truth is that Warner Brothers TV had decided not to exercise its options to engage Ruby for season 2 of Batwoman based on multiple complaints about workplace behavior that was extensively reviewed and handled privately out of respect for all concerned. So WBTV is definitely pushing back, saying that, listen, we did what we had to do. There were multiple complaints, her side of the story, whether it's true or not. There definitely are some inconsistencies, perhaps, in her story based off of the multiple complaints about workspace behavior and maybe a toxicity that she wind up sort of bringing to the set. Now, Ruby Rose's history, based off of things that I've heard Indy and Stewart say just from them doing their research, her history of being kind of a disgruntled employee is kind of well recorded in the past for some of the other shows that she certainly has been on also. And listen, it's not like the WB or even DC television workspaces are probably the easiest or friendliest or even safest at the same time. So it feels very much like we've got both people here, both parties. Like anytime I see this situation where you've got one person pointing the finger and the other person sort of pointing the finger right back, it definitely reminds me of like the Spider-Man meme, like at the end of Into the Spider-Verse where you just got the Spider-Man pointing at each other like, no, you, no, it's you. Like it's the back and forth sort of thing, and you try and figure out like exactly where the middle is, right? Like where does the truth lie in all of this? And to be honest with you, I think there's kind of a little bit of truth on both sides, to be perfectly honest with you. Now listen, when it comes to the tyrannical raid of Ruby Rose on this set of Batwoman, listen, the one thing that I always say, or that always really fascinates me, and I think Indy can vouch for this too, is anytime you have somebody that's on a show that wants to come out and spread dirty laundry, express their true opinions, especially if they felt that they've been wronged in any way whatsoever, I do wonder what brought her on the defensive to go ahead and say this. The idea that she says, please stop asking me if I'm going to return to the show. I wonder if she just got fed up with maybe all of her fans begging her to maybe try and come back, and she just had enough of it and had a moment where she's like, you know what, this is truly why I decided that I'm not going to come back. Maybe it is her own revisionist history, who certainly knows, but it's always interesting to see somebody put their foot out there and step out there and say the things that they want to say, but what's the reaction going to be, right? What's the response is going to be when you're throwing a lot of people under the bus? Are you being truthful? Are you lying? And I think it's the idea of who else is going to support her? Who else on the cast might feel some type of way, think to themselves, you know what? Yeah, we do have really unsafe conditions in here. They do kind of treat us like shit. Ruby Rose has a point. How many of her supporters or how many people from the cast and crew might actually come out and stand up for her, right? I think we tend to see this sometimes when people are trying to either be canceled or somebody gets fired, sort of thing, for maybe a reason that people don't necessarily agree with. The people that really feel like this person has been wronged or in the wrong, usually kumbaya, let's get into a giant circle, let's go on Twitter, let's support this person, right? I've been waiting all week to see somebody from the cast and crew of the current Batwoman series to certainly come out and say something. And unfortunately, while people have certainly come out, maybe not necessarily in the direction that I think Ruby Rose certainly expected. For instance, Cameron wind up jumping up here. Cameron Johnson, Mr. Batwing himself this season, responded to Ruby Rose's allegations also, which is kind of surprising. Mr. Batwing, currently on the series, it says, Bat fam, I couldn't go the whole day without saying something. I love y'all. Don't think I haven't seen all the love today. But yeah, fam, she was fired. And it is very hard to be fired when you're the lead. Imagine what you have to do for that to happen. And he also says, since it was claimed she walked away last year, I'm sure some of you were pretty confused or upset, and even more so that a lot of lies were spread today. Just know we have a lot of great souls working on this show, and none of this changes that from the top to the bottom. So that's Cameron Johnson. Okay. Worked with her all season 1, right next to her. Currently Batwing at the end of season 2 and season 3 here. I think that does speak volumes in and of itself. But you look, there are some people I'm sure that will look at this and say, oh, well, you know what? He's still got a job. He's still got to protect his ass as he goes to work each and every day and still has to work with these people. And maybe there is an incentive that is included in there somewhere for Cameron Johnson. But I do think it is pretty telling that of all the people to actually come out and say something, definitely Cameron Johnson here. And that's not it. He's not the only person that actually came out here this week. I think we had another production assistant. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull this up. That really kind of shed some life a little bit more. Yeah, Batwoman crew members. A Batwoman crew member backs WBTV, calls Ruby Rose a dictator. A dictator. This is what they said in regards to her. Baxter, the CEO and founder of Constellate Films, issued the following statement to comic book resources regarding his time working with Rose on Batwoman. It says they independently verified Baxter's claim that he worked on season 1 prior to publication. It says, when I first got into the industry, I was very fortunate to get on certain shows like Supergirl, Sabrina, and a few features here and there. But the highlight of my entry to film was Batwoman season 1. I was an actor aspiring to know more about the film industry, and when the job came up, I was so excited. Being a DC fan and a huge fan of Warner Brothers, I jumped at the opportunity. He says, my philosophy was that I could learn as much as I could on set and then go on to do my own films. Little did I know of the hell that awaited me on those sets. The production company was professional, dialed in, and in every way fantastic. The crew was lovely, hardworking, and dedicated to countless night shots. It sounds to be an amazing experience in the making. Then came Ruby Rose. From day one, where her supposed injury stopped her from doing 60% of her job, she began her first day on the show not acknowledging a single crew member besides anyone above the line. And as the day stretched on, the 18-hour Saturdays for some of us and the crew, things got worse. She showed up late most days, didn't have her lines memorized, and whenever she interacted with someone below the line, production assistant, the crew, grips, it was as though we were beneath her boots. She stormed off set, yelled at people, and whenever she interacted with any of us production assistants, we were disregarded as the trash we picked up. One day at the studio, we spent an entire morning setting up her requested green room, 6 heaters because she was used to Australian hot weather, and her table of snacks, only to have her show up, giggle, walk away, and say she is good. We chalked it up to another Ruby's just giving orders for the sake of giving orders moment and moved on. Then I was holding the door open for her, having after having worked over 15 hours at the point in the freezing cold weather, and she came billowing through the door that I just opened and spilt her food. She looked at it, then up at me and said, "Well?" and then stormed off and left me to clean up her mess. That is what it felt like working beneath Ruby, cleaning up her mess. She never thanked us. She was only made demands that left us exhausted emotionally and physically. She was a dictator to work for. And having been nothing but a production assistant eager to get into the industry, she made me consider quitting. Guys, I mean, you can, I would definitely recommend checking out more of this if you guys want to, but definitely go ahead and check it out. It's the Batwoman crew members backs WB Television, calls Ruby Rose a dictator on comicbookresources.com. Whew, man, that's a lot to take in. And I have a feeling like this isn't even over yet. This is just this week, to certainly say the least. So let me say this real quick, okay? I definitely do think that there is definitely some truth in between all of this. I do think, if anything, Ruby Rose certainly does clearly have her own issues. Again, it's very well documented, not just when it comes to a Batwoman, but also when it comes to some of the other experiences, whether that be her time on Orange is the New Black, whether that be John Wick sort of thing. Definitely go ahead and do your guys' research in regards to that. So some of that stuff definitely does carry over to Batwoman. It sounds very much very familiar when it comes to some of these crew members and things like that also. So I do believe them when these people certainly do talk out about Ruby Rose, but I also don't want to give WBTV sort of a clean slate and act like everything is completely forgiven when it comes to this also, because one of the things that I will say is that production companies and production studios, they certainly do push their workers to work an incredible amount of hours and time. It's not necessarily the safest workplace to certainly be in. And to be honest with you guys, it is a reason why there is momentum behind the idea of there even being a strike in Hollywood to begin with, right? The idea of production studios, their crew, and things like that, either not having living minimum wages, making them work extremely long hours, which in turn makes their workplace and environment rather unsafe, maybe unprepared, to where a lot of accidents can unfortunately happen behind the scenes also. So the idea of hearing all this news lately about accidents that are happening on set, right? People dying on set and things like that. Not to say that everything is chalked up to being pushed and worked over for so many hours during the day, but it's no secret that when it comes to Hollywood and the production studios, they treat people like shit on their set from time to time. And so I do think that there is a case of Ruby Rose being a dictator, and then also the other side of things where production studios aren't necessarily taking care of their employees to the best of their abilities. And I think the idea that we have a strike, or a strike that's trying to come, I think maybe pushes towards that idea a little bit. And I do wonder if maybe that's a reason why Ruby also came out and kind of slammed the production studio for that. I wonder if she felt like this was a perfect time to do that, to point out some of the, the dangerous aspects of what it's like to work on a television set for production. I really have no idea, but I do think that there's a little bit of truth when it comes to both sides in here. But I had no idea that this was going to turn out to be as ugly as it certainly was. I would assume, if anything, if there is any chance of Ruby Rose coming back for a WB project, I think maybe she's kind of shot herself in the foot here. I am kind of curious to know what Ruby Rose is currently doing, to maybe work on her mental health a little bit also, because I do believe that she does have moments of struggling with that also. Let me see what some of you guys are saying in here in regards to it. Nathan, he says, Ruby Rose waited too long to speak out. I understand that people speak when they are ready, but still, he does say Carolyn Dries is trash. Another former CW actress could speak on that. And again, that's why I said I believe that there is probably some truth in the middle of all this. It just depends on what version of history you sort of want to believe, right? I do think that there's probably truth right down the middle in regards to both sides. So it's really a matter of what tends to be false or not. But I agree. I think that for me, Nathan, at least to a certain extent, that is the question that I have is, what took her so long to speak out? I wasn't an NDA. Was it something else where, like, hey, you can't speak negatively about the show for like the next 2 years? At least wait till after the second season is done, when we wrapped up your character storyline. Then you can come out and say whatever you want to. I really don't know what was in her contract or what was signed or anything like that. But again, it does make me question, especially after 2 years or a year and a half, and you've already publicly spoke out about your departure in a very glowing manner. What is your motivation here now, right? What is motivating you to go ahead and finally speak out? And I kind of wish that we can get some answers to that in regards to it. Christopher says um, people can say Ruby Rose was a diva, and that's fine, but these set conditions sound accurate compared to other WB TV shows, especially CW, as well as other shows that my friends work on. She probably wasn't good to work with, but she didn't create unsafe work conditions. That was the production. I mean, listen, it could be a combination of both, though, right? I mean, the idea of WB not providing maybe safe working conditions, having somebody like Ruby Rose, who could certainly be a diva and be a dictator, however they want to do it, and you just mesh both of those components and everything like that together. It's easy to see how both sides can honestly be the problem here. And you're right, it is very much recorded. And that's why we talked about the concept of, like, people are trying to go on strike for this, not necessarily for Batwoman, but because some of the things that are happening on Batwoman set definitely does happen on other sets also. And it's one of the reasons why we might be headed for a strike at some point in time. Um, Indy says it seems like the set conditions are spoken of because they fit her narrative, not because they needed to be changed. And it could be a little bit about of that also. But I definitely am aware that there certainly are set conditions out there that are kind of like that. And so she could be using that as leverage to, like you said, to maybe kind of prove her point or at least fit her narrative. So it could certainly be a reason for that too. Nathan says, "Wow, the shade that discredits everything now. I didn't know about this." Yeah, it just recently dropped earlier on this week, and it's been quite the story. It's been quite the story to certainly say the least. Christopher Robin says he's more likely to listen to the PA's account than anyone else. He says at the same time, no one has verified their account, right? Not that I'm aware of. Again, we both had Cameras Johnson that came on and the crew member, but I'm not quite sure if anybody else came up and was after that. I think these are the only two that might have spoken out for right now. Um, let's see here. From what I'm hearing, Doug Ray is written off and stuff on set has changing since season one. Also, accusations from 2 years ago. She isn't there to see that if changes were made. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, with us now having Javicia Leslie on board, you did mention the idea that Doug Ray was written off of the show, also, right? So we are going into a completely new season, the third season of Batwoman at this particular point in time. Whether or not conditions have improved on set, she's probably not even aware of it, right? Just kind of expressing her time, at least from season one. So who's to say whether or not anything behind the scenes has in fact changed or made improvements? I mean, you would certainly like to think so and hope so. And like for me, you know, there's a part of me that kind of wants to see if Javicia Leslie will kind of come out, but and say something. But I do wonder if it's because of the fact that maybe her just experience was just vastly different, you know. And I do think it's just a terrible combination of Ruby Rose and maybe how production was during that time period. Again, the idea of maybe poor production settings and then having somebody with an attitude and a mindset like Ruby putting those together, and it just turned out to be a shit show. And the fact that even WB mentions that there were some disgruntled employees that came out because of her misconduct on set, the toxicity that she certainly brought to the set also, right? So I think if you're spewing that negative energy already inside of an unsafe maybe work environment, it is cause for disaster, unfortunately. And I think maybe that's what we're seeing here. But again, I do wonder why. You know what I mean? Like, why is this being brought up now? What happened during your week or day to make you realize, like, I finally had enough, and people need to know what's going on? So, interesting stuff, man, to certainly say the least. But Marcelino Vasquez, he says, if Ruby Rose was problematic, then why didn't they just recast her with Wallace Day and not replace the character? With Javicia Leslie. I guess if anything, it's probably just he says if Ruby Rose was problematic, then why didn't they just recast her with Wallace Day and not replace the character? I think that's more or less storyline purposes in regards to what they probably felt would be easier for them to either explain, not have to explain, sort of thing. I don't necessarily know if it was the case of, hey, because Ruby Rose is being problematic, this is the direction that we're going to go with the character instead. I feel like it was more storyline decisions with them now being parted ways with Ruby, them really having to try and make the correct call as for what's best for the season. And they felt that recasting Wallace Day, but bringing in Javicia Leslie as a new Batwoman was the proper way to go. Maybe give them a little bit of a fresh start to the season, to say the least. But yeah. But yeah, guys, listen, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts in regards to this. I appreciate you guys sharing some of your thoughts. I'm sure that the more will certainly come out in regards to it. And once it does, we'll definitely go ahead and keep you guys posted. And again, if you're not following us over on our Facebook page, please do so, guys. That's exactly where we post all the news throughout the week for you guys, along with posters, trailers, pictures, and things like that, set photos, featurettes. We post all that over on our Facebook page. And then we pick our top 6 that we felt got the most recognition throughout the week, and certainly do go ahead and talk about them here. So if you want to make sure that you're being caught up, definitely check us out over on our Facebook page whenever you get the chance. But all right, guys. And with that topic out of the way, we will move on to our next topic for the day, which will, in fact, be we're going to change course a little bit and talk a little bit of Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Star Wars is one of my favorite things to certainly discuss. I definitely wish I had my buddies here to certainly talk about this with them. But you guys know, as a big Star Wars fan, for me, the announcement that Hayden Christensen was going to be returning to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series had me extremely thrilled. Growing up, while the prequel series for Star Wars wasn't necessarily my favorite. I can honestly say that as I've gotten older, as I've watched Star Wars more in my years, as time has certainly passed, the prequels sit a little bit better with me. I definitely have a much more appreciation of what the prequels have certainly provided for the Star Wars franchise and lore in general. Because for me, it brought forth one of my favorite characters in regards to Obi-Wan Kenobi, normally played by Ewan McGregor. But another character that I thought was really well represented in the prequels was, in fact, Anakin Skywalker, played none other by Hayden Christensen himself. Maybe not the strongest actor in the world. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to see Oscars on this guy's mantle at any particular point in time, but I loved his rendition of Anakin Skywalker, and certainly what he brought to the character, especially when we got to Revenge of the Sith. But for years, the prequels haven't been that well received unless you kind of grew up with them as your Star Wars, if you will. You know what I mean? So after 20 years of the prequel trilogy being behind us, for me as a fan, it was thrilling to see somebody like a Hayden Christensen return for like Star Wars Celebration at one of their biggest conventions, getting ready for like an anniversary for the Phantom Menace, I believe it was, or just the prequels and things like that. Seeing Hayden back just brought a gigantic smile to my face because I felt like maybe underappreciated, but now even more realized so as we've gotten older and time certainly has passed. So when he came on that stage, I just honestly thought it was a matter of time before Hayden was going to be involved in some sort of project. So when he was announced for Obi-Wan Kenobi, it didn't surprise me, but I can tell you I was really freaking thrilled. That's for sure. Super hyped and super pumped to certainly see his return. And if you thought Hayden Christensen was only going to be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, we got a surprise for you this week, guys. He will also be in the upcoming Ahsoka series, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Disney Plus's Star Wars Ahsoka series, written by Dave Filoni, produced by Jon Favreau. Hayden Christensen will, in fact, be back for this exclusive report from the Hollywood Reporter. He says he's returning to Star Wars with the Ahsoka series. This is, in fact, an exclusive report for them. It says Rosario Dawson is starring as the fan favorite character Ahsoka, who we wind up seeing over in Mandalorian season 2, looking fantastic, by the way. It says Hayden Christensen is staying in the fold of the Galactic Empire. The actor will reprise the role of Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, in Ahsoka, the latest Star Wars live action series from Lucasfilm and Disney Plus. Multiple sources have told Hollywood Reporter. Rosario Dawson is starring in a fan favorite character, Ahsoka, a Jedi Knight survivor, popular on the animation side of Star Wars, who made her live action debut in the second season of The Mandalorian. Now, plot details are being kept in the far reaches of the Outer Rim, but it is known that longtime Star Wars lightsaber wielder Dave Filoni is writing the series and executive produced by Jon Favreau. It is unclear, though, how Skywalker, or for that matter, Vader, will figure into Ahsoka, which, like The Mandalorian, is set 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, and therefore after Darth Vader's death. The character of Tano was the Padawan apprentice of Skywalker, so the latter's appearance in the series could be in the form of flashbacks. But knowing a thing or two about how the Force works, sources also point to the theory that the character could return as a Force ghost. It's definitely very much up in the air in regards to what the future certainly holds in regards to his appearance for the Ahsoka series. And I'm thrilled with this news. I am truly thrilled for somebody that did watch Star Wars Rebels, another Star Wars animated show, to get the opportunity, and Clone Wars for that matter, to kind of see the growth of Ahsoka as a character with Anakin as her master, seeing her leaving the Order and kind of going on her own path in her own way, coming back to be found in Star Wars Rebels and having a significant impact, seeing the battle between Ahsoka and Vader over in Rebels, and seeing that Ahsoka, even to this day, is certainly still around and is now going to be highlighted in a series 5 years after Return of the Jedi. I think this is a perfect opportunity to certainly go ahead and get Hayden Christensen involved, especially just based with his connection to the Ahsoka character. I am fascinated to kind of see how they're going to go ahead and bring Hayden Christensen back in this. For me, it definitely would not surprise me if they're just all flashback moments. But I would be cool with a Force Ghost moment. I think like a Force Ghost moment is something that a part of me was maybe hoping we would see in The Last Jedi for episode 8, especially when we had Luke. I always thought it would be great at the end of Revenge of the Return of the Jedi. We see Hayden Christensen in the special edition, at least, as a Force Ghost. So we know that he's already played that role to a certain extent. And I was really hoping that with the return of The Last Jedi, that maybe he would pop up during that particular film. Unfortunately, he certainly didn't. But we're definitely getting him in other ways. So yeah, I could definitely see a Force Ghost happening in here. I could definitely maybe even see some flashback moments, also like live action. It would be really cool if we got like a live action adaptation to maybe an animated scene or two, maybe that final moment of her leaving the Order or something like that as a kid. I think that would be pretty cool to see. And honestly, and if there is something else that I would love to see adapted to, probably the fight that Anakin and Ahsoka wind up having in Rebels. The huge battle that left, Darth Vader scarred, wind up putting Ahsoka sort of in the run of things after that, right? I think she kind of traveled or trekked into the depths of the temples and things like that was the last time that we saw her before she pops up at the very end of Star Wars Rebels, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's a lot that can certainly go on in here. But the idea that Darth Vader is dead, give me some Force Ghosts for sure too. I would love to see just Anakin and Ahsoka having some really deep conversations as Ahsoka tries to either figure out her path, some of the directions and decisions that she certainly has to make. If she's going to call on anybody or the wisdom of anybody, maybe it is in fact sort of Anakin Skywalker for her to be able to capable of doing that with. So I think this is a slam dunk, if you ask me, and leave it up to the brilliant minds of Dave Filoni to go ahead and figure out a way to go ahead and get Hayden Christensen sort of involved. It's that concept and thought process of the Disney Plus television series that I really have loved. It feels very much like anything and everything can and will happen on Star Wars television when you have access to some of these great actors and people that clearly enjoyed their time and being part of the Star Wars universe. If they still want to be involved, get them involved, allow them to continue to help build the Star Wars lore. So I'm very thankful that we've got somebody like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau to go ahead and make these decisions and things like that. So I'm really pumped for this. I think this is going to be great. Not only do we get to see him in Obi-Wan, but we're also going to get the opportunity to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin and Ahsoka as well. So how do you guys think this is going to unfold? Do you think we're just going to see him as a Force Ghost? Do you think it's just going to be just flashbacks, or do you think it's going to be a combination of the two? I personally would love to see a combination of the two personally. But bring it on. I'm ready for this, guys, for sure. But yeah, super pumped about Hayden Christensen's return. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. Christopher Throbbin, not the biggest fan. He says, "Oh, Anakin was horrible in those movies, but I don't mind him as an actor." I will say Phantom Menace, was it Jake Lloyd? No, I wasn't the biggest fan of Anakin then. Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin in episode 2, on and off for me. There are some very creeper stalker vibes that I get from Hayden Christensen from time to time. There are some very annoying crybaby moments that I get from Hayden Christensen sometimes. But there is something about that struggle between the light and the dark that I really thought that Hayden did a good job of in regards to bringing that real struggle out. Probably could have been performed a little bit better, but I there's a part of me that maybe leave some of the blame to be on George Lucas, who's always been known to not necessarily be an actor's director. You know what I mean? Doesn't really interact really well with actors. So I do think some of that's in part with him. But yeah, episode two, Anakin was a little stalker creepy-ish in regards to it. Just the way that he would look at Padme sometimes, like, oh, why are you giving that creepy eye look vibe sometimes, Anakin? Put those eyes away, bro. You're freaking me out, man. That and then just randomly touching her while they're on the, at the castle, and he starts talking about sand and how coarse and rough it is. And I'm like, bro, you just this is just creepy as fuck. Like, this is just like if you're trying to pick her up, I don't know if it's working. But I mean, he gets the kiss from the girl. He gets the kiss from the girl, so clearly he knows what he's doing. But yeah, I didn't mind him so much. I didn't mind him so much. He says, I wonder how Hayden Christensen felt when he found out that he would work with the character from Clone Wars and is heavily intertwined with Anakin's story. Listen, I think the fact that Hayden is back, I think he's probably pretty open to reprising his role. He's older, he's more mature, he's probably a better actor these days. They're probably not asking way too much of him, sort of thing. And you continue to build your own presence when it comes to this particular franchise. And who knows, but I don't know if even Hayden's watched Clone Wars or if he's even a big fan of the show. But I think, hey, an opportunity to work with somebody like Ewan McGregor again, who he had a fantastic time with, even the opportunity to work with somebody like Rosario Dawson, I think he would be completely open to it. He's probably watched The Mandalorian and has seen what Star Wars has kind of started doing with their Disney Plus stuff. I think he's probably pretty pumped about the idea of it being a part of this when it deals with the Clone Wars characters and having that all kind of come together. I have a feeling he's probably really on board with it. Marcelino Vasquez says a lot of people hated the special editions that were added to the original trilogy, including myself. Some of the things I wasn't the biggest fan of, some of the things that I am. Yeah, I can definitely see people's complaints for sure. All right, guys. Oh, sorry. My cat just jumped into my lap. I guess are you ready to take a nap? Yeah, we do have a cat here. For those of you who haven't met my cat, this is Mew Mew. Hi, Mew Mew. Say hi. Yeah, that's her name, Mew Mew. Apparently, my girlfriend calls every cat Mew Mews, and it just kind of stuck. So yeah, so that's Mew Mew. She's only like a couple of months old. We found her where Cindy at least found her on the street, like when she was like 6 or 8 months old or so. See, now she's messing around with my mic cord. So if I get muted, it's because of this little creature right here trying to find something to be curious about and play with. But she's a cutie. She's still growing and learning though. All right, guys. With that story out of the way, if anything, let's move on to our next, which we're going to get into the world of John Wick a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. You guys know the Continental. We've got a John Wick spin-off series that's going to be coming, I think it's Marcelino says your girlfriend is great, but terrible at naming cats. Yeah, tell me about it. You're not the only person that's told her that before. I remember last week, literally, I think her sisters got on her case, like, really? That's what you named the cat? But you talk to you call that to every cat. And I didn't know that at first. And I walked out, I was like, wait, babe, you mean our cat is named after every other cat that you talk to? And she's like, yeah, just stuck. I'm like, now we got to come up with a new name. But now I'm sure she's probably used to Mew Mews now. So it's probably just stuck. I can't change the name. All right, guys. I'll pass along the advice though. All right, guys, let's move on to our next topic. And that, in fact, will be John Wick, the spin-off series, the Continental. I think it's only supposed to be like a 3-day event, so like a 3-night event, so I think only 3 episodes long, but they're supposed to be like feature length, so maybe about an hour and a half each. So they're definitely getting a significant amount of storytelling for this particular series. But we finally have some casting announcements, guys. These are the first casting announcements coming our way since this series has been revealed to us. We have talked about it before in the past. Some of the scripts, the concepts, the ideas as to what this series is going to be. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the actors that are going to be filling this world, as we officially got our first 2 casting announcements here this week, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into this. As it looks as though first up, our first casting choice really comes out of left field, somebody that I did not expect to see, maybe not necessarily even in movies, but more or less a television series. So any capacity, Mel Gibson, ladies and gentlemen, is coming to a John Wick franchise. Let's go ahead and dive into this. This is actually from deadline.com, saying that Mel Gibson is the first star set for the John Wick origin series, the Continental, for Stars and Lionsgate Television, guys. That's right. Mel Gibson himself will actually be here. It says Mel Gibson has been set to star in the Continental, the prequel to the Keanu Reeves series John Wick. It will be presented as a 3-night special event TV series produced by Stars. The Continental will explore the origin behind the hotel for assassins, which increasingly has become the centerpiece of the John Wick universe. This will be accomplished through the eyes and actions of a young Winston, who is dragged into the hellscape of a 1975 New York City to face a past he thought he'd left behind. Winston charts a deadly course through New York's mysterious underworld in a harrowing attempt to seize the iconic hotel, which serves as the meeting point for the world's most dangerous criminals. No word yet on who'll play Winston. Gibson, though, will play a character by the name of Cormac. That's right, guys, Cormac. And it even says it's a rare foray into the television world for Gibson here, guys. So yeah, Mel Gibson making his presence felt, will be playing a character named Cormac in the upcoming Continental series on Stars. You know what? Listen, I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen Mel Gibson in anything in forever. I think mostly I've been kind of recognizing Mel Gibson lately as more of a director, producer, and things like that. Passion of the Christ, obviously. He even had, was it Apocalypto and things like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure he's done other work since then. But it's been a minute since I've actually followed Mel Gibson's career in regards to what else he's gotten into when drama isn't following this man around, to say the least, in his past. But Mel Gibson, who in his heyday, great actor. I'm sure he probably still is a great actor in his heyday, or even today for that matter. So the fact that this is the first person that you announce for your series, I think certainly says something. And I got to think that, listen, if you're Mel Gibson, especially if you're coming in to do a rare sort of television thing, you must have a significant role, or must be a rather important player for this particular series itself. So I'm fascinated to see what Mel Gibson is certainly going to go ahead and bring to the table here. Because I almost feel like for some reason, when I think of Mel Gibson and some of the characters that I can see him playing, especially in his older age, I almost feel like the world of John Wick is like right up his alley. So I do think that he's going to fit very well into this world, especially if we're going to be going back as a period piece, if you will, to like 1975. I think he probably fits that time period very well. So this announcement was actually given on October 18th, earlier this week. So he was the very first casting. But guys, he wasn't the last. Even though Mel Gibson's going to be playing a character called Carmack, we actually do have the actor that's going to be playing a young Winston himself. So let's go ahead and dive into this, as Colin Woodell Colin Woodell, ladies and gentlemen, is set to headline the John Wick prequel series as a young Winston Scott. The fact that the young Winston Scott, who's going to be the main lead for this show, is the second person to be announced, I think maybe says something in regards to maybe what Mel Gibson's impact is going to be in this series. But then again, Mel Gibson's probably the bigger name here out of the two. But I am at least glad to see that we have the main star of the show ready to go. Colin Woodell, most notably known for his time on The Flight Attendant, which is a HBO Max series, has been tapped as the lead in the Continental. It says Woodell will play Winston Scott, the younger version of Ian McShane's character from the John Wick films, joins Mel Gibson in the three-night special TV event. And then it explains exactly what the series is all about as well. Cormac, I'm sorry, I said Carmack is the Gibson character. It's Cormac. But yeah, guys. So the casting is coming along, and it wouldn't surprise me if we get more casting announcements as the weeks continue and before this series winds up actually hitting us. So yeah, John Wick has found its young Winston, Colin Woodell. If you guys are familiar with Colin Woodell's work, go ahead and let me know. I did try and check out The Flight Attendant. It has I'm blanking on her name now. She does the voice for Harley Quinn on the animated show. Hit me up in the comment section, guys. I'm drawing a blank right now. But it's pretty much her show. I watched it maybe like 2 episodes on HBO Max, and I eventually fell off. Kaylee Kuko, is that her name? I believe she's on The Flight Attendant. That's her show. I wind up dropping off after like 2 episodes or so. I believe the girlfriend actually went ahead and finished it. There is a second season, so I don't recall Colin Woodell being in the series myself. Maybe I just didn't get that far along in it to really see what he's able to bring to the table. But if they feel this is the man for the job, this is the man for the job. You know, I am really fascinated to kind of see what this series is going to entail. You know, especially after rewatching the John Wick franchise just recently with the girlfriend, there's a lot of concepts in regards to like I would love to learn more about even the ballerinas aspect, which I think they might even be trying to do another spin-off series for the ballerina, or maybe even like some sort of streaming movie for it or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but there clearly tends to be even maybe the group that like Lawrence Fishburne belongs to. I really do hope that it really kind of opens up the history of all these different segments of these group of assassins back in the 70s to kind of truly see how this empire or this world truly is kind of built, to really give us a better insight going into the John Wick movies again, or even a brand new movie. Marcelino says they are making a ballerina movie, so it is a movie instead of an actual series itself. So yeah, those are definitely organizations within the John Wick world that I want to see fleshed out a little bit more. Who's in charge of these? Why are they in charge of these? How does this fit into the world that they've kind of created for us so far? And in the John Wick movies, they continue to build on that lore. But I do think something like a 3-night sort of special event going back to the 70s, I think will just add to that also. So I'm really fascinated. I'm kind of curious to know what the level of action is going to be. Should I expect something like John Wick, but just in the 70s? Should I just think about more classic sort of, you know, I don't even know what type of theme or motif they're really gonna like, what type of vibe are we really gonna be getting from this particular show set in the 70s? If they can give me like the type of action we got from the 70s, maybe I'll take that too. But it should be interesting to see what this is, how this is going to be fleshed out. But we continue to get casting announcements, guys. So this Continental series is going to happen, and it will be here before we certainly know it. Let's see here. Nathan, he says, I imagine Keanu Reeves signed off on this. Interesting. Mel Gibson has some good luck. He stays working, which is interesting. Yeah, he does manage to stay working. I only say he signed off on Mel Gibson because he is controversial. That could maybe give the John Wick franchise a bad look. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where Mel Gibson is at in his life right now. I don't know how much controversy continues to follow him around. I mean, while this is part of the John Wick franchise, do they have to have Keanu Reeves co-sign on this? Or is it because of the fact that it is back in the 70s and so far out from the storytelling that it's sort of its own thing and they can kind of move without getting clearance from Mr. John Wick himself and Keanu Reeves? I really don't know how that works. But I mean, with Keanu being really the face of John Wick, who knows? Marcelino says the last thing I saw Mel Gibson in was in Daddy's Home 2. That's right. Wasn't he? Was he Mark Wahlberg's dad? I think he was like his dad, wasn't he? That's right. I believe that's right. Or was that wait? Am I thinking? No, okay. I think that was Mark Wahlberg. Wasn't that Mark Wahlberg's dad? For some reason, a part of me wants to keep saying John Cena, but I think John Cena was like the new guy at the end of Daddy's Home too. I haven't. I think I feel like maybe I've watched it one time. If I'm wrong, guys, let me know in the comment section box below. But yeah, it's been a minute. Yes, Mark Wahlberg's dad. Thank you, Marcelino, for clarifying that for me. So yeah, I think that's probably the last thing that I've honestly have maybe seen him in myself also to a certain extent. So I don't know what Mel Gibson has going on these days, but clearly still performing well enough to be cast in a big television series like the Continental. Like I said, even in his early career, I always enjoyed Mel Gibson, at least as an actor, aside from maybe some of the controversial stuff that he brought with him. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how this series comes together. But guys, listen, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts. You hear this casting continues for the Continental. Are you excited about it? Do you want to see a little bit more before you get your hype machine revved up for this series? Definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. Shout out to AJ, Bacon and Sushi, for certainly coming through. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the support each and every week. He was in Fat Man too. Nathan Moore says, okay, good recommendation. Maybe I'll check it out. AJ says Tom Holland has a new movie on Netflix. He is a drug dealer. Peter Parker went the wrong way. Yeah, maybe he dropped out of high school. Who knows? Or decided not to go on to college. I have no idea. But speaking of Tom Holland, thank you very much for that segue, AJ. Tom Holland is back in the news. Well, not necessarily Tom Holland himself, but Spider-Man, ladies and gentlemen. The hype machine continues to roll when it comes to Spider-Man No Way Home. I believe last week we just talked about Tom Holland speaking about how Spider-Man No Way Home feels very much like the ending of a franchise. The idea of everybody sort of very much saying farewell. He even mentioned the idea that, look, if we are going to see another iteration of these characters in any form, they may be vastly different, or they may, they may have different personalities or come across differently, sort of thing, right? They may not be the same characters that we've known before, really hinting at the idea that this might be the end of Spider-Man in the MCU, or at least the end of the Spider-Man trilogy as we certainly know it. What's to come after this? Who certainly knows? But at this particular point in time, Tom Holland certainly is building this up to be the end of this franchise. And speaking of the end, this past week, Empire.com, the Empire Online magazine, had the opportunity to actually speak with the Spider-Man director himself, John Watts, who even went out of his way to go so far as to say that Spider-Man No Way Home is pretty much Spider-Man Endgame at this point in time. What does that consist of, though? When you say Spider-Man Endgame, what are we talking here? Like on epic scale sort of Endgame? Or are we talking like this is truly the end of Spider-Man? Or maybe both, who knows? But it's fascinating enough for us to dive into this week, guys. So let's go ahead and do this. This is entertainment. No, I'm sorry. EmpireOnline.com. Again, EmpireOnline.com. Let's see if I can get this to actually load for me. There we go. Spider-Man No Way Home is Spider-Man Endgame, says director John Watts. They got exclusive images in here also. This is the first new image that we get the opportunity to see of Tom Holland, which I love this shot. People have been looking at this shot and scratching their head trying to figure out what's going on here. If I can be honest with you guys, just looking at this one new shot alone, I don't know why I get Dr. Octopus lab vibes from Spider-Man 2 here, where we saw that final confrontation with Doc Ock and Spidey, and he's trying to save Kristen Dunst's Mary Jane. And then, the whole, the arms short circuit, and Doc winds up waking up and he's like, no, I'll take care of this myself. And he takes the giant ball of energy and he takes it into the river with him and things like that. And the whole, the lab and everything just starts falling around him. And Spider-Man's got to escape with MJ. This is the vibes that I'm kind of getting from this. I'm thinking to myself, like, is that where Tom Holland's at right now? Is that where Peter Parker's at right now? Are we recreating a fight sequence in the broken down lab? I have no idea. I'm just saying these are the vibes that I'm getting just from this photo alone. So let's go into this article here. You might have thought things couldn't get bigger or badder for Spider-Man after Infinity War and Endgame. For someone who's not up to speed on their Spidey lore, the double whammy of mega MCU blockbusters saw Peter Parker blast off to space, get reduced to cosmic dust at the hands of Thanos, and eventually rematerializes to help battle the Mad Titan. But things are about to get even more complicated for Tom Holland's web-slinging hero, thrown into all kinds of multidimensional madness in Spider-Man No Way Home this December, with all kinds of adversaries headed this way, his secret identity no longer a secret, and a reality-altering magic courtesy of Doctor Strange ready to shatter his world. Make no mistake, No Way Home is going to be a big movie. He says, we're definitely trying to be ambitious, John Watts says. He says, how ambitious? It's Spider-Man Endgame. He says, laughing, but seemingly not joking. Part of that ambition, bringing across some familiar villains from previous Spider-Man films that until now haven't been a part of the MCU's interconnected world, including Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. And then it says, when I first pitched the idea, I was like, wow, that would be awesome if we can pull this off, says Spidey himself, Tom Holland, of the prospect in bringing in famous foes. But there's just no way it's going to work. You're just not going to be able to get everyone to do what they need to do. It's just not going to happen. But it did happen, and it's crazy, says Tom Holland. It also says, from Marvel boss Kevin Feige, there was no better one to bring back Doc Ock than the man who betrayed him perfectly in 2014. He says, I remember having discussions with Amy Pascal years ago, looking back on a conversation he had. He says, do we want to revisit villains we've seen before? No. Let's do Vulture and Mysterio and characters we haven't brought to the screen before. But I remember thinking, how would we even do Doc Ock again? Because Alfred Molina is perfect casting. If you ever brought him back, it would have to be him somehow. I love this cover too for the Empire magazine. Getting a great shot of Spider-Man's suit here. And did I miss the second photo? Yes, this is the second photo, exclusive photo too. You guys might have seen on the internets from the Spider-Man movie, seeing Spidey run away here from Doc Ock. It looks like not the biggest fan of the Doc Ock CG here. Honestly, it looks like very much like a video game. But again, I'm just looking at this small ass picture. Is that the end of the article? It says, yeah, read the Empire's full No Way Home cover feature. Okay, so you got to buy the article to buy the magazine to get the whole entire article. So it looks as though when it comes to Kevin Feige, while they were definitely interested in doing other villains, the idea of bringing the back Doc Ock was certainly on his mind. I think it was a brilliant idea to go ahead and bring Alfred Molina back to certainly reprise the role. And listen, I can't even argue with Tom Holland here. The idea that he was pitched this idea, I would be ecstatic for this to certainly happen. But I probably would have my doubts also that they would be able to get everybody in place to do what they certainly need to do. When you say everyone, though, I'm curious, does that include Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield? Are we at that particular point in time now or no? But listen, I think the big thing is here is John Watts, especially talking about that they definitely were trying to be very ambitious in this film. I mean, we've heard the back and forth between I don't necessarily maybe Tom Holland and even Benedict Cumberbatch when we talked about like what the scope of their movies are going to be. And we even had Benedict Cumberbatch say, listen, I was on both sets. And I think he even called Doctor Strange 2 Into the Multiverse of Madness as the more ambitious film, but certainly not to take anything away from No Way Home, in the sense that in its own right, it is certainly quite ambitious in what they're certainly trying to go ahead and tackle, to the point to where John Watts is referring to it as Endgame here. And if I could be honest, when I hear people talk like that, for some reason I get Empire Strikes Back vibes, people wanting to compare sort of their movie to Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, right? The sequel. Anytime you get a sequel for a movie, what do you hear? The comparisons that people want to give to it for being Empire Strikes Back, knowing that Empire is like one of the biggest movies in all the world, right? It's like the movie that truly changed the landscape, not only for the Star Wars franchise, but just movies in general also. People want to try and compare it to that, right? And I feel like the same thing is starting to happen when it comes to Endgame also. It's very rare when we get these big bombastic film and movie cinematic events. And Endgame is definitely one of those. I mean, you want to talk about just the ambitious project of the MCU for 10 films, or 10 decades, I should say. 10 decades. Damn it, Adam. 10 years, an entire decade. All your movies eventually averaging out to be at least $1 billion, to certainly say the least, building up to this one gigantic moment for Avengers Endgame. It's a big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. So anytime anybody now compares their film to that of Endgame, I think you're immediately sort of thrusted into that world like, man, this has got to be a pretty big deal. And I got to be honest, I believe John Watts here. I believe John Watts. I'm believing the hype. You guys have sold me on the goods. I'm definitely going to go into Spider-Man No Way Home, clearly trying to keep my expectations as even keel as possible, but I'm expecting to see some magic in here. And listen, I think the idea also of comparing yourself to something like Endgame, or saying it could be the Endgame, maybe you are setting yourself up for failure and getting people's expectations maybe a little bit too high. And when they go into the movie, they might be just sadly mistaken and maybe a little bit bummed. But I just got to think, in the MCU, I trust, and I think they've done a great job with the previous two movies. I'm more of a fan of Homecoming than I am Far From Home. I think it's the better film personally, but I do think they've got all their ducks in a row right now, just based off of the trailers that I've seen, the setup that Spider-Man Far From Home has given us with the identity reveal. I do think this is going to be pretty big in scope. And if this movie is pushing like 2 hours and 30 minutes or something like that already, plenty of time to establish your characters, explain a fantastic storyline in here, and really put an epic kibosh on this Tom Holland Spider-Man here in the MCU. And I do think that it is very much an Endgame. I do think that this is going to be a movie that will have not only just in its scope, but just the impact that it's going to have on the MCU and a lot of these characters. And I think the fans also, if Endgame very much felt like an ending of a chapter, and I think this is going to feel like an ending of a chapter too with Spider-Man in the MCU. I've said it here before. I do think that this is the MCU, or I should say Marvel Studios, in Sony's slow push to start moving Tom Holland as a character, as Spider-Man, and Peter Parker over into more or less their Sony universe. I think it's the idea, when Tom Holland says, hey, you might see these characters again, but they may be vastly different. I think that's because of the fact that other people are now going to be controlling these characters in regards to writing, directing, and maybe given the Sony universe's vision of this particular character maybe now being thrusted into this world at the end of No Way Home. Again, I'm just making assumptions here, but I do definitely feel like when they say something like Spider-Man Endgame, I definitely do think this is the end for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Whether that means he's no longer in the MCU and gets pushed off somewhere else, whether Tom Holland dies as Spider-Man and they reboot Spider-Man again, or maybe this is just it for Tom Holland as Spider-Man and they move elsewhere. I definitely do think they're going to pull the trigger on a lot of fantastic things in here. And I definitely expect this to be epic and very ambitious. When you've got even Benedict Cumberbatch talking about how ambitious and big this film is, also compared to his from Into the Multiverse of Madness, I definitely do think that we have something special on our hands here. And I leave it up to the MCU to certainly pull it off. Listen, John Watts also, you guys got to remember, he's moving on to Fantastic Four. We've had John Watts's vision of Spider-Man for the past 3 movies. He's already been set up by the MCU. The announcement was made that he's going to be tackling Fantastic Four. So I fully expect, if we do get Spider-Man again, it is going to be somebody else's vision, certainly tackling this character. But listen, guys, I want to know your thoughts. When you hear John Watts say Spider-Man Endgame is what this movie truly is like, what are you expecting out of it at the end of the day? And do you think it can certainly live up to that same hype that an Avengers Endgame certainly did? I always do think that it is a little bit of a dangerous game to play when you compare yourself to these big monumental movies that are like record shattering. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see what this movie makes at the box office for sure. I don't know if it's going to make Endgame numbers at all, but I definitely do think people are going to be pouring in the thousands and millions to certainly go ahead and see this movie. So I'm pumped for it, guys. December, it'll be here before we know it, guys, and I cannot wait to review it with you guys and talk about it. But listen, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts. What do you guys think about this news? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. Let's see here. What are you guys saying? Um, Marcelino says, I bet $100 that Tom Holland will spoil the movie it's in his nature. I'll bet you that $100, Marcelino. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I don't think so. I think Tom Holland has definitely grown up a lot since then. I definitely think Marvel, because of Tom Holland, has maybe done things significantly different to maybe help keep his mouth shut just a little bit more. So I think that the days of Mr. Tom Holland, aka loose lips sink ships, I think he's grown out of that. And so I'm not expecting him to spoil anything as much as he probably wants to, and say something just for the fans because he loves the fans. I think he knows better now. I think he knows better. He says, if Spider-Man No Way Home is Endgame, then what is the fourth movie going to be? They are going to make a fourth movie after, right? I'm not under the impression that they are, when it comes to the MCU, at least. If they do make another movie, I'm fully expecting it to be on the Sony side of things. I believe they did, at Far From Home at least, make an agreement to at least have him, I think, appear in one more solo film so they can finish off the trilogy, and I think maybe one or two like cameo projects in MCU. So I don't know if we can expect him to pop up anymore or if they've already utilized all of that. But I'm pretty much under the impression that after this movie, um, I don't know of anything else that Marvel Studios and Sony are working on where Tom Holland is on the MCU side of things. Again, when Tom Holland talks about the idea that he even feels very uncertain as to where Spider-Man's going to go, that a lot of these characters, if we even do see them again, might be vastly different. I do think that there is something to it. And I think that's a reason why I'm leaning towards the idea that if there is going to be a Spider-Man movie, it'll probably be Tom Holland Spider-Man carrying that over to the Sony universe and dabbling with some Tom Hardy and Morbius and Craven, whatever else that they have certainly been trying to set up on that side. Nathan, going based off of rumors, he said we did hear rumors of a death in the movie, which could push Peter over the edge. Possible. I don't know what the rumor is though in regards to who could possibly die, but definitely potential there. Definitely potential there. Um, Let's see here. Stupid question. You think No Way Home was already planned right after Homecoming became a success, that Peter would eventually be exposed at the end of Far From Home? I don't know. I don't know if that was in the plans. I definitely don't think No Way Home was in the plans right after Homecoming. I think because of the fact that there was even uncertainty in regards to what the future would be for Tom Holland after Far From Home, when we had that, are Sony and Marvel gonna redo a contract sort of thing, and Tom Holland started making the rounds, really, being campaigning himself in the MCU to keep and Sony to keep working together. So no, I think Homecoming became a success, and they decided to do Far From Home, and then they decided, hey, we need to re-up this contract, and now let's start thinking about No Way Home. So I don't think it came that early. Christopher Robin says, this movie sounds cool to me. Probably no Endgame though. He says nothing is gonna make Endgame numbers these days. Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely agree with you there, Christopher Robin. When I was thinking about the box office, that's part of me was like, yeah, no, he's definitely not making Endgame money, especially just the way that the box office is right now. It'll definitely make some money because I do think that the box office is on the increase. I do think that people are going back to the movies for sure. So I do expect this movie to certainly make some bank. I'm not expecting it to make Endgame bank, but it is going to make bank. It definitely is. But all right, guys. Again, let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, we got two more stories that we're going to go ahead and tackle with you guys today. This one, the last two will certainly be at least MCU driven. And this past week, guys, believe it or not, even though the box office is raging right now, Disney has decided to actually delay a couple of its upcoming films, and not just Marvel films, but some of their Disney Lucas films also, in other movies as well. So I was a little bit intrigued as to why the delays are certainly happening, even though the box office is, really showcasing that it is starting to make money again. So let's go ahead and dive into this article and see if Variety actually explains why Marvel is deciding to delay and even push back some of their movies, guys. This actually comes to us from Variety.com, where it says that they've decided to delay Doctor Strange 2, Thor 4, Black Panther 2, and even Indiana Jones 5. It says, Marvel fans, prepare to wait a little bit longer to see Doctor Strange, Thor, and Black Panther. Disney has delayed release plans for several upcoming films. It says, Doctor Strange 2 Into the Multiverse of Madness has moved from March 5th of next year to May 6th. It's right in that blockbuster window now. So March 25th to May 6th. May 6th used to be Thor Love and Thunder, but now Thor Love and Thunder is now moving to to July 8th. So again, Doctor Strange 2 from March 25th to May 6th. Thor 2 Love and Thunder from May 6th to July 8th. So it looks like it's bumping it back just a couple of months here. Thor Love and Thunder still very much in that window for summer blockbuster events for sure. So they got two big movies now back to back, right in that perfect window for summer blockbusters. Doctor Strange, which you want to be a summer blockbuster, and Thor Love and Thunder. We know it's already going to be bombastic with Taika Waititi at the helm. But then also Black Panther moving out of the summer slot of July 8th, now moving to November 11th. So November 11th, guys. So it looks as though they literally have taken the placements of their previous movies and they've just moved it down by one. So yeah. So now Doctor Strange 2 on May 6th, Thor Love and Thunder July 8th, and Black Panther 2 November 11th. It does say that with the Black Panther sequel jumping to November, The Marvels has been postponed to early 2023, and the Ant-Man and the Wasp has been bumped to July 28th of 2023. So I'm assuming maybe the Marvels is now on that February 17th date. I would assume so. That's me assuming. I don't know if that's the new Marvels date or not. It just says early 2023. And if you are moving Ant-Man off of February to July 28th, maybe the February 17th date is where the Marvels is going to go. So yeah, we do have new dates. So a little bit longer having to wait. I am a little bit bummed that we've got to wait now till May for Doctor Strange. I do think it is the better date though for May 6th, but I was really wanting to see this damn movie, honestly. It does say, along with the deluge of Marvel delays, Disney has also moved the fifth Indiana Jones installment back nearly a year. It says the still untitled film with Harrison Ford will open June 30th, 2023 instead of July 29th, 2022. Crushing my heart here. They must not want Harrison Ford to watch this movie. They must be waiting for this man to just croak and just not be able to see himself on screen as many times as they freaking continue to push this movie back. What is the issue here? It's the Indiana Jones thing. I definitely want to know what's going on with that movie because it is currently filming as of right now. Maybe the filming has been either very delayed in the past. It definitely did take them quite some time to even get in front of the cameras. I was surprised that this movie was even in front of the cameras after all the delays we've had already. But now you're telling me you're moving this movie from July 29th of 2022 to June 30th of 2023. I'm wondering, like, are there script problems that are popping up now? Is Harrison Ford ill? Is he not feeling too great? Is he not moving around on set like you need him to? Is it being a lot bigger of a chore to actually film this? The idea of moving a movie a couple of months, no big deal, but a whole year? Man, especially when you're already filming, post-production does not take 2 years for something like that to kind of come together. So I'm a little interested to see if we're going to get any further information as to why that's happening. But so here's some information. It says the major release date shuffle comes after Marvel's Shang-Chi cemented its place as the pandemic era box office hit and ahead of the Eternals, the MCU entry that is scheduled for November 5th. The scheduling overhaul is related to production and not box office returns, according to a source at Disney. The next Black Panther entry, for one, is still filming in Atlanta, since Marvel has become an interconnected and meticulously planned universe which spans dozens of films and several new television series. Any production delay causes a domino effect on the rest of the franchise. So that's good to know. That's a good point of view. As for Indiana Jones, the 79-year-old Ford sustained a shoulder injury on set in June. Okay, requiring the actor to take a break from filming while he healed. Though director James Mangold continued to shoot without Ford, there are a limited amount of scenes that don't involve the adventurer. Ford has since recovered and returned to set. Okay, that explains things a little bit more, that they had a delay. It seems as though a little bit of a delay in regards to that because of him hurting himself on set back in June. Okay, I can swallow that concept, but damn, I'm so ready for this freaking movie to drop. This is gonna be like an 80th anniversary movie for freaking Harrison Ford by the time this movie comes out. It's gonna be ridiculous. So yeah, guys, we definitely do have some delays when it comes to the MCU. But I do love at least the fact that the sources at least gave us a reasoning behind it. And it makes sense when you have something like Marvel that's got so many moving pieces all at once. You need it to all kind of fall in line together. One delay can have a trickle and domino effect. So that definitely does make a lot of sense to me in regards to the MCU stuff. But it'll be here, guys, before we know it. And I'm excited for it. Out of the movies that we named, Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, Thor 4, what out of those movies are you really looking forward to? I definitely want to go ahead and know your guys' thoughts. All right, guys. And with that story out of the way, we do have ourselves one more topic that we're going to go ahead and break down for you guys. And that will continue to be in the realm of Marvel. Listen, guys, I was always a very big fan of some of the Netflix series that we wind up getting from the MCU. I mean, I was a big fan of Daredevil, especially all three seasons. I personally was even a big supporter of the Defenders movie that they wind up dropping. When it comes to Jessica Jones, it was a very hard series for me to certainly get through. Jessica Jones just wasn't a character that I was able to really connect with, just her personality wise. Just wasn't a character that I was fond enough of to really care about. Luke Cage season one, I thought was fantastic. Really, absolutely, I love Michael Coulter. Shout out to Michael Coulter and his career. Ever since then, especially, I believe he's on the Paramount Plus original series Evil now, which I definitely want to go ahead and check out myself. And then, of course, we had Iron Fist, which some people want to try and forget about. I know some people that were Iron Fist fans, though, absolutely love the second season, but nothing compared to Daredevil. I was a big fan of Charlie Cox, his rendition of Matt Murdock. Always bummed that the idea, probably very similar to that of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, that are bummed at the idea of the lack of acknowledgement that the MCU has tended to give the Netflix world from time to time. But trust me when I say the fans have always wanted to see these characters return in some way, shape, or form. They definitely have their fair share of support for sure for those that follow the Netflix series. And to be honest with you, Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock, I thought was perfection, to the point to where if we ever were to go ahead and redo these characters or bring them back, I would love to see Charlie Cox reprising his role, whether that be literally taking them from their Netflix universe, stories included, and just placing them into the MCU finally. Who knows? But one day, I definitely would love to see it. So those of you who are big supporters of Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil, as excited as we are, Charlie Cox is saying, hey, pump your brakes, guys. Pump your brakes, because there's always a double-edged sword when it comes to the return of a character that you love. There's a little bit of good there. There's a little bit of bad included. And again, it's not confirmed that Charlie Cox is even going to be in the MCU. There has been a lot of rumors and speculation that he could be popping up in No Way Home as Peter's attorney or his lawyer. We do have ourselves a court comedy show in She-Hulk, if you will. Maybe Matt Murdock pops up in there also. Plenty of avenues and opportunities upcoming for Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock to certainly return. And so while he definitely hasn't confirmed his return, he is at least allowing people to be a little bit wary about maybe it's you don't necessarily always get what you ask for. And so let's go ahead and dive into this as Charlie Cox opens up about a possible Daredevil return. Let's go ahead and dive into this. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. It says Charlie Cox called speculative Daredevil return a double-edged sword. It says the Marvel fans want, what he says? Marvel fans want the actor back in the superhero role he made his own for 3 seasons on Netflix. Charlie Cox knows Marvel fans want him back as Daredevil in some fashion, but he advises caution. During a recent interview with Jessica Shaw on Sirius XM, the actor said that there's been a lot of speculation among fans about whether he will reprise the role of the blind superhero post the beloved Netflix series. And he admits playing Matt Murdock once more is not an unattractive thought. What happens in the comics is a writer and an artist will team up for a run of a comic. So they'll do 10 issues, maybe 20 issues. If there was an opportunity for me to come back as Daredevil, whatever that would look like, I imagine it would be a reimagining of the character and the show. If they chose me to do it, they're going to be in some elements. There are going to be some elements that are, of course, the same, or they might choose someone else and reboot it all over again. He says Cox, who recently appeared in the AMC original series Kin, starred in the Drew Goddard created Netflix series Daredevil, which ran for 3 series for a total of 39 episodes. Then it was canceled and fans were outraged. He says, although some fans want him back as Daredevil in the new series or even to join the MCU, Cox noted that the situation could be a double-edged sword. you've got to be careful what you wish for. You come back and it's not as good, or it doesn't quite work out, or too much time has passed. It doesn't quite come together in the same way. You don't want to taint what you've already got. If we never come back, you've got those 3 great seasons, and our 3rd season was our best reviewed. So the trajectory was up. I'm tremendously proud and grateful for what we certainly have done. And so, yeah, that's Charlie Cox revealing a little bit insight in regards to his return, possibly as Daredevil. But I'm glad that he brought this up, because I do think that there is something in here that is important to definitely understand. You know, it's easy to be like, hey, I definitely want Charlie Cox to certainly come back as Daredevil, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get the exact Daredevil storylines, personality wise, that we got exactly from the Netflix series. He's right in regards to creative teams matter. And sometimes creative teams change. We see it in the comic books, and it happens when it comes to TV series also. You know, what one person had as their vision for Daredevil may not necessarily be somebody else's vision, right? And you may have fans out there that are such big fans of a Netflix Daredevil season that if you do anything different, or if you switch it off, or change out characters, or add different personalities, it can definitely have some fans that may not like this iteration of Daredevil. So, as much as we're asking for Charlie Cox to certainly come back as Daredevil, I think he definitely does pose a great question to be like, hey, things could change. Just be careful what you wish for, because that there is something very important to momentum. And when you've taken such a long break from a series that's been gone for such a long time, will there still be that need and that crave for it, right? Can you still build on the momentum that you built so many years ago that have now kind of been squashed? And I will agree with him too. Season 3 was, for me at least, season 3 was the best season, I thought. If I had to review any of these seasons, it probably, the 3rd season would have been my best reviewed one. I love the origin. I love season 1. I thought it was a great sort of coming out party for Charlie Cox, as Matt Murdock really laying a fantastic foundation for the world that they're building. Incredible action and fight sequences too. They really brought it season 1. Season 2 was cool in regards to Elektra, but I do feel like they maybe lost their way a little bit. But season 3, I thought was incredible, getting an opportunity to see Kingpin back along with Bullseye and things like that. Absolutely loved it. So I do think that there is an idea here that if we were to get Daredevil back, there is a mindset that we need to start tackling and approaching, that this is not going to be a season 4, that this could vastly be something different. But I also wonder if this is also maybe a Charlie Cox himself getting us ready for his return. I think he definitely would love to absolutely do this again if the opportunity certainly were to arise. As much as he loves this, I think I even saw a clip of him somewhere saying that if somebody else got cast as Daredevil, that he would literally fight somebody for it. Like, he literally said, like, no, if somebody else is literally going to have to put on this helmet and this costume and stuff, they're going to have to come and get it from me and pry it from my hands or something like that. Or he's like, he'll definitely willing to fight somebody for that mantle of Daredevil. So Charlie Cox, very proud to be this character for sure. But I do think that he at least poses a great perspective for us to certainly have, because I am hoping that this is him mentally preparing us and kind of getting us ready. Like, hey guys, I want to return. A return is happening. It may not necessarily be in the way that you picture it in your head, as perfect and copy and paste as you want it to be. It's going to be different, and it might be a different vision. But regardless, I'm coming back as Daredevil, guys. Granted, he hasn't said he's officially coming back, but I do wonder if this is him mentally preparing us for any significant changes or different directions that maybe the MCU kind of wants to take that character kind of going forward. And I don't blame them if they want to go ahead and change things up. I mean, Kevin Feige has the mind and the mentality and the story maybe in his head as to how you want to introduce some of these characters, or reintroduce them into the world that you've spent such a long time building. If it is a little bit vastly different, I think that's something that I can swallow and acknowledge. As long as I got me some Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock and Daredevil, I'm perfectly okay with it. And it would be even interested to see what other actors might come back, if any, from this particular series also. So the question I would ask you guys is, does Charlie Cox have a point? Or if you do expect Daredevil back, are you expecting it to be the Netflix Daredevil exactly as is, and not willing to give sort of any leeway towards it? I would love to know your guys' thoughts in regards to that in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. So definitely go ahead and let your guys' thoughts be known. I think it's going to happen. I definitely do think it's going to happen. Look, we've brought back J.K. Simmons, right, for Spider-Man, which people have been asking for, and they pulled the trigger on it. Freaking Alfred Molina is certainly coming back. The word impossible no longer exists when it comes to the MCU. If they want to do it, they can do it. Now, whether or not somebody accepts the call to return or want to return is certainly up to them. But I almost feel like everything is possibly on the table when it comes to the MCU in regards to bringing back some fan favorite characters. I wouldn't mind the idea of some people getting, new characters or new actors getting opportunities. But there are just some people that just fit a role so incredibly well that you really want to see them get their just deserves and get that opportunity again to certainly play their role. And for me, Charlie Cox is certainly one of those actors as Daredevil. I definitely would love to see again. And then maybe once he's tired of playing the character, maybe like 5-8 years down the road or something like that, then maybe go ahead and recast Daredevil and do it all over again. I'll be fine with that too. But I appreciate the warning, Charlie Cox. I'll definitely keep my expectations in that realm. But I definitely want to know what you guys think in regards to that. Nathan says, I can't unsee Charlie Cox as Daredevil. I think fans will wonder about the other cast from Daredevil too. Yeah, I was just thinking that too. Some of his supporting cast, was it? I want to Happy? No, not Happy Hogan. Damn it, what's his name? Foggy. Foggy. I would love to see Foggy come back too. I really do. AJ says, I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil. He was incredible. I saw the one with Ben Affleck, and it was terrible. Listen, you know what? I know some people that are fans of the Daredevil movie, but the people that are fans of the Daredevil movie swear up and down the director's cut is the way to go. That the director's cut for the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie is the better watch. I have not seen the movie since it was in theaters. Yes, I went to the theaters to actually see the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. I can't remember it being god awful. I think I just walked out of it like, oh, okay, another superhero comic book movie. But I haven't revisited it to really give it a new look and a new review. But everybody tells me if I'm gonna watch the movie, the director's cut, the director's cut. He says, I used to think Charlie Cox was related to Courtney Cox from Friends. I can understand that. I can understand that. Let's see here. All right, guys. And I think other than that, shout out to Adam Perea for certainly coming through today. Thank you very much, man, making your presence known. But all right, guys, I think with that out of the way, we will now go ahead and transition over to your live viewer questions as we go ahead and wrap up this show for the day. So let's see what we got here. Sorry, I'm checking to see, do I got any notifications from my fantasy football team so far? Probably not. Mm, 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 mm. All right, let's see what we got. Live viewer, well, we got a few. They came in last minute. I literally only had like one question to start off today's episode, or maybe like two questions actually. Let's see here. Jessica Friedman. What would you like to see in a season 4 of Young Justice? And would you like to see one of the Robins guest star in Batwoman? Yeah, I would love to see a Robin guest star in Batwoman. I think if you're going to do a Robin though in Batwoman, I would love the opportunity to see what's her name? Carrie, the female Robin from The Dark Knight, Carrie Kelly. Yeah, I would love to see maybe Carrie represented on this show. Um, I think that would be a really great way to go ahead and introduce her into the lore. So if I did have to pick a Robin, I'm trying to see if there's any other female Robins. And maybe that was only her. Maybe she's the only female Robin, Carrie. Oh, Stephanie Brown, the daughter of supervillain Cluemaster. Um, and Helena Wayne. Yeah, give me a Carrie Kelly. I'll take a Carrie, or maybe even a Stephanie. If they want to go ahead and have her as a Robin, and then eventually maybe establish herself as a spoiler. I think again, I haven't really watched Batwoman season 2 or the new season 3, but I believe they said that they have introduced Stephanie in Batwoman so far. So if there is a Robin, I would be cool with either Stephanie or Carrie being the Robin for Batwoman if they go that route. Because I do believe, yeah, Stephanie does go on to become spoiler, but I think that it says while fighting her way to a clean conscience, Brown occasionally worked with the third Robin, Tim Drake. It says, following Drake's retirement from crime fighting, Stephanie fabricated her own Robin costume and snuck into the Batcave where she demanded Batman train her. Okay, so it's not really like a full-fledged on. It doesn't sound like he became a full-fledged Robin. So if anything, maybe a carry, but it seems like something that they could probably do. It says I don't have Drew. It says I don't have Stewart and Indy here. Any questions, guys? Unfortunately, in regards to like the Flash and shows that I don't watch, probably not going to be able to answer. So I'm just being honest with you guys. Maybe hold off on some of these questions until we actually get Indy and them back. So I think that's probably what I'll do. Let's see here. Assuming this is from Marcelino Vasquez. Assuming the Flash movie fixes the DCEU and gives it a more fluid canon, what are some changes you would like to see made? I personally want to see them remove the deaths of Captain Boomerang, Black Mask, Jimmy Olsen, incorporate Cheetah into the modern present, have the Birds of Prey and Shazam characters become more involved with the Justice League, make Man of Steel a better movie, and finally, if it comes down to it, replace Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill with new actors. Um, what are some of the changes? I am kind of curious as to what changes might be made in this in this DCEU movie. Like if there is an opportunity for them to fully reboot things, this is their opportunity to do so. Um, I know you want to replace Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill. For me, no, please keep them on board, but that's just me. I can understand WB if they decided to go down a different path. They definitely have a lot of opportunities to certainly do so. Right. I think there's a Black Superman movie that's coming, I think, from J.J. Abrams as a producer. I think Bad Robot's supposed to be producing that movie. Whether or not this is a new Superman that's set to replace the Superman that we have, if the Flash does change things significantly in Flashpoint, we'll definitely have to see. I haven't really thought about it too much. Like, if they were to change things, what changes would possibly be made? Like, I was always under the impression this is their opportunity to completely remove the Snyder version of whatever they created initially and completely change it. Maybe having Shazam a part of the Justice League going forward might be a new change. I feel like they've highlighted him as a member of the Justice League in the animated film, so maybe the Flashpoint puts him more in line with that. We do have ourselves a brand new DC comic book wise, a brand new Justice League that's been put together. I think it's got like Black Canary, Arrow, Hawkgirl. I think it's got Black Adam on board. I think it's Wonder Woman's mom, I think, is as an Amazonian part of the team. Naomi's one of the characters on there too. You still got the heavy hitters like Superman and Batman a part of it. So it would be cool to kind of see them maybe even put together a brand new Justice League team if they wanted to kind of go that route. Or maybe it's the idea that we get Flashpoint, and Flashpoint maybe not so much reboots the DCEU, but just introduces us to a bunch of brand new characters, right? Because we do have a Blue Beetle movie that's coming out. We got a Batgirl movie that's coming out. Who's to say that the impact of the Flash movie isn't what necessarily launches a lot of these new characters that are being introduced into this world for the first time? So there's definitely a lot of interesting ways that they can go about it. Do any of you watch nature documentary shows? Yeah, I do. Just depends on what my mood is. I definitely was Planet Earth. I can't remember if that was one of the ones that I watched. Always cool to see different animals in different parts of the world that you've yet to explore. I remember even watching one on like snow leopards, which was pretty incredible to kind of watch, seeing how endangered they were, the mountainous regions that they live in and stuff. I'm always fascinated by that type of thing. I think the last thing that I watched though was a nature documentary series on the ocean, talking about not only the different animals, but I think it was really about the concept of saving oceans and things like that, trying to become more environmentally friendly and things like that. So yeah, it just depends on what I'm into, but I do like documentaries. I every once in a while I might watch. I think with the 9/11 stuff that we had last month, I was watching a bunch of those. HBO Max has a new documentary series on the insurrection on January 6th that I kind of want to give a shot also. And even history documentaries I think are pretty important to watch too. We tend to forget our history. And it's kind of crazy the term of, if you don't know your history, you're failed to repeat it or something like that. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I think it's something that we should all watch and learn a little bit more about is the history of our country and just history documentaries in general. This question is for Indy if he's here today. He's not, but he said, well, I just found out Indy isn't going to be on Sunday, so I guess I wasted a question. But maybe just in case if you're reading this right now. So backup question: do you think live action Disney movies work better when they're not trying to be beat for beat of the original source material, like Maleficent, which completely told its own original story, or when they expand upon the universe by making a sequel or a prequel like Cruella? I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think, like, if I'm watching a live action, I don't want it to be shot for shot or beat for beat. I kind of appreciate the idea of them broadening it just a little bit more. Um, so I think that they work better when they're not trying to be beat for beat. There are definitely some moments in like Aladdin that couldn't necessarily be beat for beat that really worked out for me when it came to that particular movie. But you're right. Same thing with Cruella. I thought Cruella was a great, really solid film. The fact that it was very much more original, just building off of a character. I think those are the better routes for them to certainly go. Because if I wanted to watch the it beat for beat, I would just put on the animated series, or the animated movie, or you know what I mean. So if anything, I think the idea of it was definitely having stuff carrying over, but putting maybe your own liberties and twist on things, because maybe things don't necessarily quite work from animation into live action, and maybe you're able to do something significantly different in live action that you necessarily couldn't when it comes to animation. So yeah, I think it's better off that way. Doomsday, what's up, Doomsday? Based on the two new No Way Home pictures we received, which one screams Spider-Man Endgame to you? If I had to pick, definitely the Tom Holland one when he's like crouched down and uh he's got the scars on him and stuff, right? Clearly like he's been through a battle. I said the scene reminds me of the Spider-Man 2 shot of the Doc Ock laboratory that they were fighting in the conclusion. That had a very epic feel to me. So out of the two photos of one, either Spider-Man running away or Tom Holland preparing in the middle of battle, definitely the one of him preparing in the middle of battle. Which MCU villain do you think had the greatest motivation? Oh shit. Greatest motivation. Listen, I mean, I feel like the greatest motivation. Right now, off the top of my head, I'm gonna go. Man, the greatest motivation. There are a couple. There are a couple. You know what? I'm gonna go so far as to say because they're very personal. I'm gonna go say Killmonger, and I'll even say the Mandarin from Shang-Chi. Win Mei, what was his name? Wenwu? Can't remember his name. I'll give those two because of the fact that they're so incredibly personal. You know, they're both very family oriented and driven. One driven by the death of his wife, you know, still dealing with that grief and missing her sort of thing, trying to have been a good person and then having your wife sort of taken away from you because of maybe some of your own actions, you not being there, type of thing, right? That motivation to push him back into it, I think is a. I don't want to say great motivation in the sense like, yeah, that's what he should have done. What a great like I don't know how to put that into context, but I think if anybody had a motivation, I definitely would put him up there. And then Killmonger, the idea of them just being sort of left behind, and having to see what Killmonger has kind of had to grow up through and all the obstacles that he certainly had to overcome just to get his rightful sort of recognition. Those would be my two. Those would be my two. Um, Thanos and Loki, great villains. Great villains always have great motivations. Loki's a little bit more selfish. Thanos a little bit more genocidal in the sense that, listen, I get the idea of trying to bring peace and stability to the universe. This is a very big and broad motivation for him. But if I had to choose, I would go the more personal route with Killmonger and Win Mei. Damn, I can't remember his name. The Mandarin from Shang-Chi. What do you predict will happen in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series? We'll get a new Hawkeye. Haley Steinfeld will be gorgeous. Um, Haley Steinfeld will kill her role in this movie. Jeremy Renner might actually make me laugh for once as Hawkeye. Um, well, I think out of this, I think there's been speculation. I don't know if it's even speculation now, if it's been confirmed. I know we're going to get ourselves an Echo spinoff series, I think, out of this. Um, which I would be open to. I wonder if that's something that might open the doors for, say, like an Electra or like a Daredevil storyline to be introduced also. Um, I really want to see I don't know what to expect with this Hawkeye movie. I think for me, I'm interested to see if he addresses why he decides not to train, why he chooses Haley. I mean, baby, based off of just the trailers alone, she seems to be a very big fan of his, maybe recreating some of his footsteps. It looks like in the trailer alone, she picks up the Ronin, um, the Ronin mantle or the suit, and then we clearly have Clint who hunts her down and realizes, oh, you're a girl. What are you doing? Like, what kind of problems or trouble are you trying to cause here? So I don't really know out of what I predict out of this. I feel like Clint, if anything, will probably survive. I know that there are rumors. Did I say movie? It is a series. It is a series. Nathan, sorry if I said movie. I apologize, but it is a series. Nathan, you're right. There are rumors that he might even become blind, or was it deaf? Is it if Clint in the comics, I think, might become deaf for a period of time. I don't know if he is still deaf in the comic book series, but it's one of those two. So I'm expecting maybe that to certainly happen in this movie, to where now we do have Haley who has to kind of step up as the new hero. So I would be interested to see how that turns out. But I'm intrigued. I'm invested in checking it out because there is a part, especially if it's coming out during Christmas time. I love watching Christmas movies, guys, especially during the month of December. So this is gonna fit right in there somewhere in between Home Alone and Die Hard. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a nice mixture of the two. AJ, what's up, AJ? He's got a couple questions. You probably talked about this anyway. If Charlie Cox were to return for a fourth season of Daredevil, would you like it to take place right after the third season or maybe a few years later? And what other characters from the MCU TV series or even from the MCU movie universe, but played by different characters? So, see, I think this is exactly what Charlie Cox was talking about here, in the sense that I love that AJ asks, do you think it's going to return for a fourth season, or will it take place right after the third season? Assuming that the Daredevil that we do get will be ripped right out of the Netflix series, and that's what we're going to get. And so I truly do appreciate Charlie Cox really giving us this fair warning in the sense of it could be a double-edged sword, right? If these characters do come back, they could be vastly different. So I'm not expecting this series. If I had to guess, AJ, I'm not expecting Daredevil. If it were to return, nothing's confirmed, but if Daredevil were to return, I don't think it's going to pick up from anywhere. There's a part of me that thinks that we're just going to get a blank slate Charlie Cox as Daredevil, and introduced as Matt Murdock, and we go from his story from there, like a retelling and a rebooting, if you will, is kind of what I would assume. I could be wrong. And other characters from the MCU TV series. Look, I do think that there is a world that we live in where we get, say, a Luke Cage back, whether or not it's Michael Coulter, who knows, an Iron Fist, a Jessica Jones. These actors do want to come back and reprise these roles. I don't know if everybody deserves their own series. One of the things I think we've talked about on here is like, if you do want to bring them back, Heroes for Hire, I think, would be a great Disney Plus series for them, where you can encapsulate all three of these characters into one show. The relationship between Jessica and Luke Cage, the relationship between the friendship and bond between Iron Fist and Luke Cage. I think you can have them all play off of each other extremely well. Now, whether or not they want to bring back the actors, who knows? But I do think that there's a place in the MCU for the Netflix characters in some capacity. So for that, definitely go ahead and certainly bring them back. Those are the ones that I certainly would like to see too. Other shows like The Runaways, um, Cloak and Dagger that we wind up getting, right? I wouldn't mind eventually seeing them, but again, it's the idea, like, are these characters big enough to even warrant them in the MCU in some capacity? Because I'm under the impression, if we're introducing them into a Disney Plus series, we have big intentions at some point to include them in the movies. And I just don't know if characters like Runaways or Cloak and Dagger are meant for like big movies, in a sense. Not to say that it can't be done, but it's, for me, I guess it's not something I'm really fascinated with, which is a reason as to why I miss sort of the smaller production MCU TV shows, because I do think there's room for stories for these characters to be told, but it feels weird to a certain level to get them that involved in the MCU. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens though. Um, with the recent news of Smallville returning to TV, but now as animated series, I'm so glad you brought that up. And with the original actors reprising their roles, what do you want to see with the old characters since the original series ended? And would you like for them to maybe have a small connection to the CW Arrowverse in any way? Probably not a connection to the CW Arrowverse. I think, if anything, keep it in your own world. I think they did a good job of already establishing characters like an Aquaman, or I should say an Arrow, Impulse. They already kind of formulated their own Justice League on Smallville sort of thing. So, if anything, I know the animated series is supposed to be focusing on like the 20 years, since it's been 20 years since we've last seen these characters, where they're at now. Whether or not they revisit tales in between that 20-year time period, from when we see the finale to when we see Clark pop up in the Crisis universe or the Crisis crossover event, or if this is going to take place 20 years directly after, and we're focusing on Smallville himself. Listen, in the television show, they did mention the idea that he hung up his cape, right, to focus on his family and being a hero for his family, if you will. So I do wonder if this is going to be more adventures in between that time period. Or if they're going to say, hey, screw what we saw on the CW Arrowverse stuff. This is our Smallville universe. We're going to go ahead and create and just grow upon that. Either way, I'm perfectly okay with it. But for me, I think the idea of just bringing back the old actors, very familiar with their characters, very familiar with the series, I think the animated series is in good hands. So I'm really looking forward to it. Have you heard or seen The Crow? Yeah, played by Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. It was the final movie of Brandon Lee, who was the son of Bruce Lee. Brandon was accidentally killed during the filming of the movie. It was a really exciting film, and as one of Brandon's best films. Yeah, I believe he was shot on set, if I'm not mistaken. Very, I don't want to say eerily familiar to what the incident that we just literally had on the set of Rust, I believe, was Alec Baldwin. I think he wind up shooting somebody that was supposed to be like blank bullets or something like that, and instead it was something else inside the gun, some shrapnel or some sort of projectile managed to like injure like two people on set and actually killed, I think, a director of photography. Just a terrible stuff, man. Terrible stuff. And again, we talked about this at the top of the hour with Batwoman and some of the production issues, that not only WB television, but just production sets everywhere in Hollywood, whether you're on film or you're on a movie or TV, some of the really strenuous stuff that these people have to definitely deal with long hours, long times of not eating, quick turnarounds to go home, sleep on like minimal amounts of time, and come back and work another 14, 15, 18-hour days, being paid under sort of a living wage. If you follow and read some of just the how some of the set production is handled and how little some of these people are appreciated and stuff. I think one of the ladies, the person that was in charge, I thought I read the person that was in charge of even the prop sort of thing of the gun and filling it and getting it ready. Like, I don't even think she was that well trained to even do it, or didn't even necessarily know how to certainly do it. It's just a big mess, recently. But when I think of that, I do go back and think of Brandon Lee, on the side of the Crow, because I do believe Brandon Lee was shot on the set. Yeah, it says Brandon Lee was killed by a prop gun on The Crow decades before Alec Baldwin wind up shooting somebody here. So yeah, just a terrible tragedy, gone way too soon. I heard he had a very bright future ahead of him. Stud too, handsome looking guy, very well trained in martial arts. Probably could have been one of the next up and coming action stars of that decade. I mean, the people were really high on Brandon Lee, and unfortunately passed on the set of The Crow. I personally, as much of an iconic character and movie that The Crow is, I think when it came out, it didn't really interest me that much. And as I grew up, I just never went back and watched the movie. But it is, I have heard of it for sure. I definitely know of it. Hard not to, with me being the type that always follows movies and stuff. So maybe it is something I'll put on my list to watch for sure. Um, Let's see here. And then, of course, we got Adrian Perez coming through. Thank you very much, Adrian. Hey, Adam, from the Hasbro Power Rangers movie, what do you guys want that is different or even similar to other superhero films we already have from DC to MCU? Do you think this new upcoming movie will be dark, like rated R or PG-13. Any news from Hasbro Pulse about the film, or still a blank paper? Still a blank paper as of right now that I'm aware of. We haven't gotten any news from the Hasbro Pulse convention this past weekend about the movie. Some of the rumors and rumblings I've been hearing is that the Snake Eyes movie might have shook Hasbro in their boots a little bit, unsatisfied with the result of that film, and are maybe back to the drawing board when it comes to Power Rangers, really trying to making sure that they're locking this movie down, and giving it the proper presentation that it needs, because you only get so many opportunities to reboot a movie and take a crack at a movie before you just realize, look, people just don't want to see this movie in theaters, right? Like if it becomes another flop. So you definitely got to make the right choices there. In regards to doing something different, I mean, look, character depth is always going to be important. You definitely have to make sure that's established. Always a solid storyline. And I think, if anything, too, you got to take back Power Rangers to what it was. And that is, in fact, martial arts in action. And you got to put the suits, and you got to have fight scenes. All that stuff is very important in a movie. So at least a Power Ranger movie. So you got to include all that. I don't think they're going to go so dark as an R rating. I think a PG-13 is just fine. You can get away with a lot when it comes to PG-13 ratings these days. So I think PG-13 is just fine. No need to get any more darker than that. But just, yeah, action, fighting, character growth, and make sure your story is tight. Maybe introduce it. I mean, we are in the world of multiverses now. It's become a big thing these days. If you can incorporate multiversal storyline where you're bringing back either nostalgia factors and moments where you can get people who are fans of the series to enjoy little Easter eggs or connections that it's making to the overall big scope of things, but also appealing to the general public in regards to like just an epic storyline and the scope, whether that be them traveling across dimensions or to different planets. Embrace the sci-fi maybe elements of what of Power Rangers is. Nothing wrong with grounding Power Rangers, but maybe start including and adding a little bit more sci-fi elements on a grander scale to it, maybe to help bring more stakes, and make the stakes bigger than just, oh, they're going to destroy this neighborhood. You know what I mean? Make the stakes maybe a little bit bigger. Um, with these news about Ruby Rose, who was the original Kate Kane, do you think this drama might interfere with the rest of the filming of Batwoman series? And do you think Javicia Leslie herself is trying not to be in the middle of the beef? Do you think we will see Wallace Day return as Kate later in the season? And do you think some of the cast members who are arguing with Ruby might still stick around or be written off? I think this season is a season in its own. So I don't think it's going to interfere with the rest of the filming for Batwoman. I think they're just going to continue to keep going about their business. If there is anything that will stop a Batwoman from happening, it's the strike that we're talking about. But other than that, no, I think Javicia Leslie, I think since she is still kind of new to this role, um, I think she'll probably keep her mouth shut and not really say anything and speak out and put herself out there, because then you're gonna have a battle of the fucking Batwomen. You know what I'm saying? Javicia Leslie versus Ruby Rose, and then people are gonna start taking their sides. That's not my Batwoman. That's my Batwoman. And then it's just the division stuff. So if I was Javicia Leslie, I just would not say anything. I would just keep going about my business. Be thankful for the opportunity that you have to be in the position that you are. If you have something to say it after your time as Batwoman, but I don't think she should say anything, honestly. And do I think Wallace Day will return? I hope she returns. I haven't seen her as Kate Kane in season 2. It's a season that I missed, but I do love me some Wallace Day. I do think that she's a really strong actress. And I really loved her in Krypton. So if there is a way to bring Kate Kane back for this season, I don't see why not. But yeah, Ruby Rose's time is definitely done. How excited are you guys for the Hawkeye series and Spider-Man No Way Home? Do you think we will get those two special cameos we've all been waiting for, or will it just be Tom Holland's farewell as Spider-Man? Also, do you think the movie will come out both in theaters and streaming? Yeah, I think if anything, I think probably not both streaming and theaters. I think if anything, the box office being on the rise, movies like Shang-Chi making as much money right now, I think Disney would be a fool to put it on theaters and streaming right now. If anything, directly, exclusively to theaters, people will come out to see this movie. And then maybe eventually make it available if you want to for a premium access for a month or two after the movie has had its time in theaters, and then maybe made available to the subscribers for Disney Plus. But don't do theaters and streaming for the MCU stuff as of right now. I think they would just hurt themselves, honestly. But I'm super excited for both. More excited for a Hawkeye series than I honestly thought that I would be. I'm not expecting it to be the best thing that I've ever seen, but I love the tone of an action Christmas themed series. Again, it feels like I'm getting a little Die Hard, a little Home Alone with some of the vibes that I'm getting from the both of them. So I'm cool with it. I'm perfectly cool with it. As far as do I think we're going to get the two special cameos, and you're probably referring to Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. If I had to, as of today, make a prediction, and granted, my mind can easily change with any new information that's provided to us. I feel like I've flopped back and forth multiple times. I do think they're in this movie. I do think that they're in this movie. If anything, though, I don't think that they're in this movie as big of a role as people maybe think. I think we've mentioned this before. I can see them being in like 5 minutes of this movie, maybe 10 minutes of this movie overall. But if I'm thinking like the final sequence and all the Spider-Man are together taken down, that I don't necessarily know if I'm gonna go that far. But who knows? Maybe that's the 5-10 minutes that they're actually in this movie. So I don't think they're gonna have a big arch in this story, in this movie. But if they do come back, maybe a cameo of like 5 to 10 minutes, and that's it. And that's it. So we'll see. We'll see though. All right, Adrian. I think that is it in regards to all the questions that we have. Yeah, that actually does wrap it up for us. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly coming through. Before we go, though, let me just see if there's any comments. I'll just go ahead and scroll through some of these comments that maybe I might have missed to hit up before we go ahead and wrap up. And then I'm going to go ahead and watch some football today. Probably watch some football, continue to paint this this wall here so you guys can see. Here, let me see if I can show you guys a better. So this is the wall right now. So it's still a little bit of a ways to go, but that's the wall right now. I have gotten to the bottom a little bit. Will this even show? Yeah, there we go. So that's the bottom. I'm almost done with the corner. And I'm gonna take it all the way to the other side. So definitely be working a lot this week for sure. I feel like that maybe this will be done in like another 2 weeks. I did order some more stencils so I can get more dots up at once. Um, but yeah, I'm liking it so far. I would be lying if I said working on it doesn't freak me the fuck out. It definitely does, because I'm like, don't mess this up, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. It's my background for my APlus Opinions logo that I've been wanting to paint on this wall. And so I've got the background I'm putting together. And then I think me and the girlfriend are probably going to try and find a wall sticker or a wall decal of the actual APlus Opinions logo and stick it plop right in the middle of the wall with the polka dot pop art as its background, very similar to that of my APlus Opinions background. So it's coming together. It's coming together. Then I have plans on getting a TV stand so I can put a wall mount, so I can put a TV up there, project pictures behind me from time to time if I want to, and then maybe a bookshelf, maybe some shelving, and then just kind of start decorating some LED lights, maybe a strip at the top, strip at the bottom, so I can go ahead and have some different colors and really add some pop and some pizzazz to my set. You know what I mean? Let's see here what some of you guys are saying. Let's see here. Marcelino, going back to Anakin Skywalker news, it says Hayden Christensen is a great actor. If you saw him in other films, it's just George Lucas gave him a bad direction to act. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, granted, I don't, so I think the other Hayden Christensen movie I saw him in was like Jump, shortly after this, his time on Star Wars. I didn't mind him in that movie. I thought he did what he had to do in that movie. I'm not expecting any Oscar nominations for him anytime soon. I mean, maybe he does got some nominations under his belt for all I know. But you're right. I mean, I'm definitely not going to put all the bad acting um on his shoulders. That I definitely will put some of that on George Lucas for sure. Name my favorite Sharknado movie. I've never actually watched a single Sharknado movie, honestly. Just it's too off the wall for me. Looks funny, but I just too off the wall for me. AJ says if Toby and Andrew to make a cameo, I hope they give them small teasers of their movies, or the camera shows us a bit of brief Easter eggs. Oh, I see what you're saying. So using older footage instead of maybe them actually being in the movie itself. Marcelino says off topic, but I spread your Hasbro and NFT deal to the other Power Ranger YouTubers. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I did see you in the Illuminati live cast yesterday when I tried to join in to watch myself. I was curious if they were going to tackle the NFT thing, and I was just kind of seeing other people's perspectives and point of views and seeing what other people's mindsets were. And I think so I really do appreciate it, because then they even acknowledged the video and hopefully even sent some viewers my way. So I appreciate you spreading the word on the channel. It really does go a long way, Marcelino. So thank you, man. Um, but yeah, I am curious. Like when it comes to NFTs, it's such a topic that I think a lot of people, because cryptocurrencies and digital currency exchanges and things like that are so new, it's even a learning curve for me. And I just tried to do my best research and break down maybe both sides of the arguments, or at least bring some education and insight, while I too was sort of being educated on the matter. So I'm sure there's more that I got to learn. There's clearly more like details that I personally would like to learn in regards to how this kind of all works, just out of curiosity. But I appreciate you spreading the word. Thank you very much, Marcelino. AJ says, "Is it true Henry Cavill will be the new James Bond?" Not that I'm aware of, unless something like just recently dropped that he's going to. No, I'm not seeing anything. Oh well, here's okay. Let me Ooh, Cineblend. Is Henry Cavill still interested in doing James Bond? I wouldn't say it's. I will say this: it hasn't been confirmed, but it does seem as though it wouldn't be surprising if he is up for the role. Something tells me that he went out for the role prior to trying to get the role from for Superman. I want to say it was down to maybe him and Daniel Craig, and they went with Daniel Craig. So he definitely has shown his interest. But some insiders are saying that they've narrowed down to top contenders. Reggie Gene Page, which I think is the guy from the where is he from? It sounds like he's from the Bridgerton. Yeah, I think that's Bridgerton, right? The Bridgerton guy, Henry Cavill, and then Jamie Dornan. Was that 50 Shades of Grey? I think that might have been him. So yeah, 50 Shades of Grey guy. Um, Bridgerton guy, and Superman. Those might be some of the people that are on the short list right now. It wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think it's official as of yet. I think they're probably still trying to figure that out. How do you put How do you put those circles? Oh, stencils. I got stencils. I got like four different sizes. It's the big one's the very middle. Another set that's a little smaller, another set, and then I've got an individual smaller one. So I've got four different circle sizes, but they're all stencils. So I'm just kind of taping them up and then just using paint and just painting inside the stencil pretty much is how I'm doing it. I don't really have a line for my trajectory to see like make what to know like what's straight, like officially straight. A lot of this is just lining up visually. So I think that's another intimidating part is trying to line it up visually. But I think once it's all together, it's going to look so pop artish that I think it's just going to capture your eye and you might just kind of get lost in it, maybe hypnotized into it, sort of thing. That you probably hopefully won't notice it too much, especially once I actually start. Like I said, I'm gonna start putting stuff on the wall too, so there will be things that will kind of overlap and cover the wall a little bit. So I think if there are any issues with the lines, I think people will probably not even notice it. But all right, guys, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for us here today. So thank you very much. That wraps up all of our live viewer questions. Sorry it was just me today, but you know what? Things come up, things happen. But hopefully, wish everybody, Stuart, his best in regards to recovering and feeling better. Indy, I hope you have a great day at work, man. Hopefully, it all comes together for you also. And you guys out there, as always, continue to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for taking time out of your weekend to spend with me here and get caught up with all the news. So go off, enjoy your weekend, whether that's football, hanging out with family, doing whatever you do. Certainly enjoy yourself. And then we definitely will be back next weekend for you guys. So definitely look out for us. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so right here at APlus Opinions. Very active over on Twitter, along with our main page, which is our Facebook page. So definitely go ahead and check us out over there where we post all our news throughout the week. And you can definitely follow us over on Instagram as well. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet here on APlus Hero Report, please do yourselves a favor and do so on our YouTube page. But until then, guys, as always, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye. If you enjoy our content and want to be a part of helping our channel grow, become a patron supporter. We have affordable tiers to choose from that offer a variety of exclusive and early access content, from audio files for all of our shows for you to enjoy on the road, access to our Discord community, and plenty of reactions, reviews, character breakdowns, and more. Check us out at patreon.com/aplusopinions. And as always, remember, like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so anytime we drop a brand new video,